Welcome everyone to the FATED Connections episode number 87. We're 2.5 weeks into the Lake of Calandra. There's been a plentiful amount of podcasts and discussion around, but there's never enough. And today we're joined by Lighty as well as Betta-ah Gaming to discuss all the ins and outs of the Lake of Calandra, of our experience with it, and of course the new patch coming later this week, where GGG announced a number of changes coming to the lake, to Arch Nemesis modifiers, and to various quality of life things in the game. So before we discuss all this beautiful stuff, let us make sure that we are caught up with our guests. Welcome, Lighty. How have you been? We haven't seen you in a while. How did your league go?
All of 3 weeks have been fantastic. Having a great time. I'm still playing the game, which, to be honest, that's enough said right there. I'm having fun playing Path, getting new uniques, a lot of new uniques to be fun. You know, I got one of the new uniques within the first 20 minutes of the league. The Thrill Steel helmet gave me Onslaught, made leveling so much more enjoyable. I did, yeah.
On day one.
That's so disgusting.
I had my first Beast in Act 2. So I had a different experience than most, I would say.
You dropped it right in the window when it was good.
Well, I checked my DMs in Discord, downloaded the streamer client that Beck sent me, and I just toggled on all the functions, good to go. Checked my bank account, got sent thousands of dollars for playing the game. That's how it always works for everyone, right? The rest is history. Game's fantastic, can't be fixed, no worries.
All right, yeah, that's a great summary of the first 3 weeks. And now, of course, Betta, we haven't seen you on here yet. Would you quickly give us an introduction and tell us what you're all about?
Yeah, for sure, man. What's up, guys? My name is Betta-ah, and I pretty much make build guides over on YouTube, and I also stream there. And yeah, pretty much that's what I'm all about. I do plan to do a few other things on the channel in the future, of course, but for the time being, I do obviously just stick to live streaming as much as possible and putting out build guides when possible.
That's great. Good to have you on here. And how did your league start go? What build did you go with, and how did you find everything?
Oh man, I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much for having me, guys. And so yeah. I started off with the normal traditional SRS Necromancer. I pretty much got up into T10 maps with maybe 6 Chaos budget, which I only spent on a 5-link and a shield. Otherwise, I was literally in campaign gear. And then I switched over into Poison SRS. And from there on, it pretty much just skyrocketed. And the build's been doing absolutely fantastic. I recently upgraded it this week with the Covenant and the United in Dream Sword, and currently I'm able to mount like majority of the bosses, and I've just been having an absolute blast, man. Like, I think this is probably the best league start that I've had in a very, very long time, and I'm absolutely loving the game. Like, I don't know.
I heard SRS was actually quite good too now.
Yeah, and the fact that it has the extra 38% more damage buff makes it so much better. Because I pre-tested the build basically before the league began, and it did feel sort of lackluster and slow. But I mean, league starting it now was just absolutely amazing, man. And of course, I just did like normal Atlas strategy and that stuff with going into Abyss and that to try and farm up some of the new poison jewels for the minions. And obviously I wasn't lucky on getting any of those. So I had to end up buying them. But yeah, otherwise it's been an absolute blast. And I'm still currently playing the build, of course. I did Maven and that yesterday, Deathless, for like the very first time ever. So I'm very, very impressed with the build overall. I'm really, really loving the league, man. No complaints here.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to hear more about when we talk about like the different aspects of the game, and like there's certainly been a lot of community. I wouldn't want to say outrage, but certainly some heavy discussion around.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt, yeah.
Ballard, is there anything you want to catch us up with? Is there any thing that you've specifically been doing in the past week or so?
I'm mostly just starting to, or like trying to farm my headhunter, which is a lot longer if you don't want to do any of the boring stuff. Because I've been super stubborn about sticking to the idea of doing juiced content and putting lots and lots of mobs into my map instead of just doing Alk and Go. So the best strategy I've come up with so far is about a little under half the amount of money I could make Alk and going on the exact same build. But I do get to fill my map with mobs, which is more fun. So it's a longer headhunter grind than I'm used to. But at least I did find a way to put enough mobs in my map for me to have fun. So I'll
How did you
settle for
manage
that.
to get more mobs?
Oh, I'm still just using sextants and scarabs and re-rolling all of my maps for high quantity and valing them and everything. I'm losing money compared to just Alk and Go, but I'm still making money. So
Fair enough.
the way I figured it is, if I'm going to keep playing, because obviously at the beginning of the league I was very upset. I was like, if I'm going to keep playing, I have to make an active choice to look for the fun things and just do them. And just find whatever I can find fun and just do that and not worry if I'm losing money or whatever. Just do the fun things. So I found some fun things. I found a fun farm that I enjoy doing, and I'm going to do that. And if it takes me a little bit longer, twice the time to go farm up my headhunter, then it takes me twice the time. At least I'm having fun content in the meantime.
No, I think that's what PoE has always been about. Is like there's always like theoretically something more profitable that you can do, but it's all about doing the one thing that you consider so fun that it doesn't hurt doing it for like 6 hours plus in a row, right? I mean, if you go to the extreme, probably the most efficient thing that you could do in software trade is anyway sitting in your hideout, crafting and trading and flipping items. And a lot of people would say that that's not the fun that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at a lack of words. Lighty, how did you experience the whole loot thing? Seeing that we've only talked to you in an episode leading up to the league, and we have shared our expectations and our hype for the Calandra and everything.
Yeah.
And then there was this a little bit of different
I'm trying
outcome.
very hard to be a good boy, all right? And I'd be remiss if I said I wasn't yet again disappointed with the vast majority of decisions that have been bestowed upon my favorite game. But that being said, there are certain aspects that I felt are very noticeable and certain that are not very noticeable from a solo self-found perspective. And thankfully, I happen to align myself with certain mechanics this league by happenstance that really didn't get too, molested by the patch notes. So I decided when I was going in to do a bunch of heist, expedition, and essence were the big three things I was focusing on. The only one that felt like there was heist it does feel very diminished compared to last league. But the rate in which it feels diminished compared to other things is significantly less. Like the floor is still good enough. So hitting a unique box in heist and getting 0 to 1 uniques compared to 4 to 6 obviously feels miserable. But that's still better than most things at the moment from the very start of league. Now, expedition, I felt the quantity nerfs and then the Gwenin nerfs, like day one, I felt it. And we didn't get confirmation that we didn't get confirmation that IQ was gutted until day 2 or 3 or something. And then Gwenin was like day 6 or 7 after people ran like 50, 100,000 straggly. So I felt that, yeah.
We could assume that Gwenin was nerfed, seeing that like the uniques were less common, right?
Sure, but I would have not assumed that. The way that it was phrased, I would have assumed it was drops because that's what they said versus like mechanic-specific things. So I was just going off what we were told. And we were told a lot of things that maybe not were 100% true this league. That's up to a whole other conversation. Either way, when the second I felt on day 3 or 4, Gwenin was like gutted, and compared to what it used to be, still, I will admit, I think Expedition is still probably like top 3 mechanic in SSF, even after it gets hit. I just decided to drop that and do other things. And I focused on my entire atlas was set up to run guaranteed occurrence events. So like Strongbox guaranteed, Domination guaranteed Shrine, Harbinger guaranteed one of those, just guaranteeing shit. Because then I did what everyone else, a lot of people did, which was Elk and Go, because it didn't feel really worthwhile to invest in maps. It felt a lot easier and a lot more consistent loot to just get my guaranteed one thing from my one map and kind of move on. Like nickel and diming versus looking for these big loot piles, which is like less fun, I would say, because there's not that aspect of like, look at all I've got, and it's like I'm picking up pennies versus picking up $1, and it might take the same amount of time even, but it just doesn't feel good, right? So that was what I focused on, and then my sights greatly shifted to after we got all the information we got on the various mechanics and how things were changed and the rates, yada yada. I said, all right, well, fuck most of this stuff. I'm just going to try to farm Trial Master. So that's what I've been doing for a week and change now. And I haven't yet to do one Trial Master because they are hard to farm out.
How do you even get it to drop? How do you even farm a Trial Master?
Trial Master is composed of 4 pieces. They're not fragments. They're more like Harbinger pieces. And those pieces drop from 4 different forms of content. You have Val Temple, the Incursion Roomba boss, Uberat Ziri, and the Delve Architect boss. These are not 100% drop rates, and they're not the same drop rates from everything we've tested. So it is very difficult to farm some of these things because these are not the same rate of occurrence as far as like how you can access them. Val Temple drop rate seems to be about 1 in 10-ish. The Incursion ones, apparently after we've seen hundreds of like numbers put forth, it's about a 1 in 10-ish on average. And then you have the same thing for Incursion, seems to be 1 in 10 and 120. Uber at Ziri seems a little better. And the Architect's probably the same, about 1 in 10 as Uber at Ziri is, but the rate which you could find an Architect in solo self-found compared to doing a Val Temple is like so much rarer. So if you get a little bit unlucky on finding Architect, that could take, weeks, for example. Like one of my teammates, Leggy, farmed out like I think 15 incursions over yesterday, and he didn't get a single drop. And I just got my first drop on 10. So now I'm off to Delve to sit there until I A, find an Architect, and B, it happens to drop the roughly 1 in 10 piece, just to do a Trial Master, of which the drop rates we now know after people have run them enough. And it's like you have like a 65 to 70% chance of dropping the Helm off of Trial Master itself, which is an unfortunate rate of drop. So, which is Hate Forge is at 2%, and then the other things are like 5% to whatever.
2%
after that.
only. Wow, that is so bad.
Which makes sense because I think there was only like 3 or 4 in trade last night. I don't play trade. I play solo self-found, but like I just looked at I tend to look at the numbers en masse to check things like, for example, the item levels. Like the item levels of the pieces on the Incursion one, I believe are only 80 plus, implying that it only drops in 80 plus areas, that sort of stuff. So yeah, farming Trial Master is like super, super rough.
There are only 7 total Hate Forges on trade, including offline.
Yeah, so it's not good. But it's like for me, someone who farms uniques, it's like a super fun thing to go towards, even though I probably won't do more than like 10 or 15 over the entire league at this rate. I don't know why they didn't make it 100% drop rate of the fragments. I don't think it would have made a sliver of difference in like the game at all. But I bet you next league they're going to change how it functions in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to complain what I'm about to say, but I very much dislike when new content is added and it's almost always worst form versus it's like best form. If that makes sense. Like without question, next league I can't imagine it's any worse than this. Is what I'm trying to say. Like the way that Trial Master's currently fought, and I really wish and grind it out. I really wish it was like almost a benefit to being the first people to experience content versus it's like, well, it makes more sense for me to just wait next league and do it because it literally can't be worse than right now. It's like doing Harvest at the beginning of the league versus Harvest now. It's Harvest is very different, but if you did Harvest at the beginning of the league, it was strictly worse than doing it right now. It only got better, which is kind of promotes not engaging with the content to a degree.
And only get better though.
Yes, yeah. I don't think Harvest is bad. I just think it's very different, and then you have to change your expectations. Like it's use
compared
case totally
to 2 weeks back to Harvest right now. Oh, it's way better. I feel like Harvest is 10 times better. Like they, they are slowly putting in small implementations and that stuff to make it a lot better, which I'm very happy about. Obviously, I haven't really done that much harvest crafting myself. I tend to just buy items because I'm a softcore noob. Well, softcore trade. So.
I think you touched on something very specific, which is interesting about Harvest now, and I don't think Harvest is very good for crafting anymore. Like, really at all, except for finding edge case items where they only have 1 or 2 tags of things Harvest can access. Like, I think Harvest now is extremely powerful for swapping things and extending sextant and scarab things, like that sort of stuff, like changing essences. But that's it's just become a total utility system versus a crafting system, which I think is the big kind of shift people have to do if they want to enjoy Harvest. It's just like a different thing now, you know? Like trying to craft an item, doing nothing but hitting a reforged fire. You'll be there fucking all day. Like you could try to craft a reforged fire, like to try to hit like +1 fire gems, right? You got fire to spells, you got flat fire, you got fire res, like you're never gonna hit it versus like doing a fossil or anything else. Like just using it for utility
Fossils
stuff
are way more solid.
That's not great. Like it's just the best of what we got at the moment, I think.
There are still some really
slim.
good things to reforge, though.
Yeah, like crit for certain. I mean, there's certain things, like I said, there's like the certain mod rolls there just isn't a lot of. Even like trying to get like specific negative resistance nearby on like Elder helmet things, like there's just only like 2 tags. So like there are the edge cases, but it's just not like
jewels are really good too.
But even clusters are just like clusters are a pretty unfortunate state in general. Like the one meme I always say is about Master of Fire is a roll on a fire cluster that has fire in the title, applies fire exposure, doesn't have a fire tag. Like there's so many things like that just just unfortunate.
Master of Fire doesn't have a fire tag?
Yeah, it's also the first time I hear that, but that's unfortunate.
What the hell?
I think it's only elemental, right?
I don't know if it has any tags. I'm pretty sure it's tagless, but there's like so many examples like that for other things where it's like, why is this a thing? Like it just that was a decision made during when Harvest was actually used for crafting because it's preventing easy access to Harvest things. But now that Harvest has shifted, you'd think that they would have in a perfect world gone back and adjusted the changes accordingly, but they weren't.
Yeah, that's something I've seen talked about in other places, and people said that specifically that the Harvest was a problem because it made cluster jewels easy to roll, and then they did go and balance cluster jewel mod weightings around the existence of Harvest, and now that Harvest is nerfed, it seems in a lot of places it's way harder to roll cluster jewels than it is reasonable.
The best way for most, I think half the clusters I've been using this league have unironically been to scour elk them. I checked the numbers on Craft of Exile. Like I looked at like how hard would this be versus farming out the fossils using alt aug regal, and it's like nope, just scour elking or chaos spamming is just the highest rate of hitting the 2 desirable modifiers for like a lot of them.
That is rough
because most thematic jewels have nothing but flooded amounts of those tags, so it really doesn't do a whole lot. It just kind of muddies the pool when you're trying to use them.
My favorite ones for Harvest still that you can reforge lightning on cold clusters and reforge cold on lightning clusters for really good outcomes. But on top of that, you can fracture them now.
That's a big one. It's a little expensive.
Which is quite useful. But it's really fracturing things like jewels really only becomes useful at like super high-end expensive crafting, like where you're not looking for a 2-notable cluster, you're looking for a perfect 4-notable with a good suffix on it in that instance, right? And their Harvest is still okay because you can fracture something that isn't like on a lightning cluster that isn't the cold tagged one, and then you can reforge cold, which gives you a really high chance of getting the one thing that has a cold tag, and now you're rolling only for 1 extra, right? But it is expensive to do something like that too. That's not entry level anything.
Has anyone found Oshabi yet, or the thing? Oshabi.
Like 7 or 8 of them.
How many bosses?
I've found 2 myself and 3 Harvest bosses too. Yeah.
I want to say somewhere
9
around
bosses, no Oshabi so far.
I want to say somewhere around 1 in 10.
Yeah,
I've been specifically farming Harvest with all of the sextants for Harvest on and Harvest spec'd in and everything. So every map has Harvests. So that
Which
one in
greatly
10
increases
of
the
the
chances,
bosses
yeah.
I encounter drops a blossom.
Yeah.
About.
I think it's a 50-50 chance on the blossom dropping, right?
I mean,
It either
I haven't
drops or
seen
it doesn't.
that. Well, that's true.
No, so far I've dropped 3 blossoms and I've killed about 30-ish bosses. So
Wow, okay.
if it's 50, no, it's about 1 in 10, at least from
Yeah.
what I've seen so far. 30 is a pretty small sample size to make that assumption, but also that's all I've got. So
Ballpark figure is still pretty crazy, though. I mean, only 3.
What's the cost for the to also not just the Oshabi part? Is it 5,000 the fracture? 10,000?
ooh, I don't remember.
Isn't it 15k?
I don't know. I know they nerfed it.
10,000.
10,000. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's still a lot, though.
Yeah.
And it's purple too, which is the second most expensive one.
You so that was one of the leagues that was pretty greatly changed. Another one that we talked about before the league came out that I heard Baylor speak very fondly about in a sad way was the Beyond changes. We had similar concerns. I don't think that our concerns could have even come close to how bad it actually turned out, in my opinion.
Oh my god.
Battle was so sad in his stream when I was watching. It actually made me sad, man.
And then they just had the patch notes, which is it's always good when they fix things. It's not a problem if things are fixed. However, it always begs the infinite question: how did it get to that point to where you were nerfing the life of all Beyond mobs by 60%? That would have been to me a really.
That, I legit thought to myself, why didn't they just originally do that?
It was pretty obvious of a feeling, and then also the nerfing of the boss life by 5% felt kind of like almost, I won't say insulting, but it was like, why even make the change? That's like such a negligible change.
Well, it's like Glacial Hammer does 6% more damage.
To upset people. Yeah.
So we don't understand something about that. I don't know what it is we don't understand, but there's something multiplicative going on with that because the Scourge bosses got way easier, not 5% easier.
Well, the patch for the 5% is not even out yet. They just announced that that's a change coming with the 5%, right? That's not something that is actually in the game yet.
Isn't that already in?
No, they said later this week.
Literally
just only lands at the end of the week.
Literally,
I never thought they were hard, to be honest.
Yesterday, I went from having 1 minute Scourge fights because I have a low damage to 20-second Scourge fights, and I didn't change anything. I didn't change my gear. I didn't change nothing.
Yeah, but the patch thing
I
announcement was today, right?
That.
It wasn't yesterday. Yeah. It was only today, and
it was this morning.
Yeah, and it said that it's coming later this week. If I bring it up here, they said.
I don't have much of a problem with their life pool, honestly. It's just the damage that they dealt. Was about as strong as a magic mob from Scourge. And it's really strange. I mean, you feel it way more in the lake than you do on maps, I think. But it's like I was watching myself on stream comically tanking a white mob and almost dying, and then just tanking a boss and taking no damage. And I was like, what wire got crossed here that this is occurring? And obviously, when you die, they drop nothing. I mean, that's without question, But
I didn't take a lot of damage from Beyond, but whenever I rolled the odd Beyond map, trying to get map completion and stuff like that, and you just out Beyond onto a map, I would run it. But it always felt like, sure, I'm never spawning the boss, so I'm straight up getting extra monsters in my map, but they didn't feel worth killing because it just took so long to kill them. Yeah. All the extra monsters every pack, and they don't drop anything. What do you think their
Scourge levels are at? Because they feel like about Scourge 150. From what, if you can even remember, from
no, I can't remember. It's so many balance changes since Scourge.
That level feels kind of like where they're sitting. It's definitely not just you open up a Scourge. These are the mobs. There's some level of damage reduction occurring.
Absolutely,
where it's something's going on there.
Yeah, but I can't even decide whether it's worth it just for XP, like whether it's just worth it for the added monsters in my map, because it takes so much longer to clear the map with Scourge on.
Has anyone used any of the tainted currency to any real success?
No, I've been stacking that up. Like,
and it pretty much just failed every single time. Like, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, hearing it went from a 50-50 to a 1 in 10 was like for like the fusing things was pretty demoralizing. When the drop rate is also like not high.
We jumped into standard. Yeah. We jumped into standard to get our tainted fuses to see if they were worth using, and we went 4 socket on the bench, and then used fuses and went 3, 2, 1, 0. 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 and fuck, all right, let's bench it back up to 4. We spent about 25 benching it back up to 4 and then pressing them again, and never went up from anywhere except 0. Never made it to a 5 link, never made it to anything, and then went, well, I'm not using them in the league, see you later.
Someone did the math and said it was like legally better by a very small margin if you're trying to 6 link a already like double corrupted thing versus using the 15 whatever 100 val, that thing. Like, it was legally better if you start from the 5 link and went to the 6 link, but that's only if you hit the exact average. If you got even slightly unlucky, you're hemorrhaging money apparently. So I don't understand the world in which those are supposed to be used like to any consistent amount.
It feels like they nerfed them enough just having them have the scarcity that they do, that they could have left them at exactly the same power they were. In Scourgely, very strong, overpowered, absolutely.
Yep.
But you've just nerfed them based on rarity at this point. You could have left them at their base, straight 50-50.
Yeah.
They would have been 20-25 chaos items individually dropped in League, which would be at least a little bit of a dopamine hit when you hit it.
For sure.
And it gives you the option of farming them.
And it's still not guaranteed when you use them. You could still just get unlucky and just whiff 5 in a row, and that wouldn't be like a statistical outlier. That would just be like, at
50-50, you quite often could just burn through them.
Sure.
Like, you could also get super lucky and just be like, I want a 4 link, 5, 6. Yes.
The kids call the classic GGG triple pronged attack. Why nerf one thing when we can nerf every aspect of it? Then pick up the pieces over 2 years. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, I've had the most success and most use I've had of them is by if I'll val something and then make it go up to like 28 quality. That's been like the best thing. I'll be like, I got these gloves, I get them all spiffy. Like, they're like slightly worse than the ones I'm using, but if I val them and I hit like a good implicit, boom, now the replacements, get the colors right, val them, I hit the good implicit, sweet, let's get some quality. Hit 28, feels good. Like, that's that. That's been like the best use of them. I tried using all of them, and they've all been shit aside from that, pretty much. But the quality one feels good. I mean, it's a little insulting that they can't go to 30; they just go to 28. But that's life, or 29. Sorry.
I kind of like that you can never.
What was that?
Apparently not.
No, I think it says 29. If you hold Alt, I think it should tell you the value. I'm pretty sure it just goes right under what would be perfect.
Wow.
If anyone's in game.
For any of the quality enchants, you only need 28 most of the time, so.
True. It just looks stinky,
1%, man.
It looks icky.
Yeah, it's so that the people who have these OCD feelings that they can't ever get their perfect item unless they do it beforehand. I kind of like that, like, after the fact that it's corrupted.
Hates people with any sort of mental illness. Is that the claim you're making?
Exactly, that's 100% what I was trying to say there.
First they came after the colorblind, then they came after the widescreen viewers, and now it's the OCD.
The widescreen.
Yeah, the widescreen is a very, very weird form of disability.
It is, but it's National Widescreen Month in the U.S., so shout out to those people. They have their own struggles.
Support all the widescreeners and
they get their own parking spaces and whatnot.
Widescreen parking spaces.
Yep.
Vertical parking.
extra widescreen viewers.
So yeah, I agree. Those could have been just stayed the same odds, but then like just nerf drop rate so that it would be special if you get one. And like you said, the RNG element is still in there. You could still, even with the old odds on the fusings and jewelers, you could still get unlucky and like waste a bunch of them without getting any meaningful progress on your item. So
I don't think they're introduced into the currency drop table either. So like it is an exclusive drop from Beyond. You
absolutely.
can't seemingly
you can only
can't
get them
hit
from
it
Beyond.
from any whatever.
I like that
like
though.
Acres or whatever. Yeah, like League exclusivity feels good because it's like I want the thing, I gotta go do the thing to get the thing. Like that feels on brand, you know.
100%.
That's my forever gripe with Path of Exile balancing is I don't like when, to get a mechanics thing. Like if I'm doing, I want fossils, the best place should be Delve. But it's like if I want splinters, the best place should be Breach. And
what is the best way to get
job.
fossils right now outside of like incubators, which
Heist is pretty good.
A trade league thing.
I think Heist is probably faster for fossils. What you normally do is you heist for fossils and you map for resonators, and you just pick up the node that gives you the azurite per sulfite thing. When you
right, and you just buy the azurite from Nico.
Yeah, that's the pretty consistent way. Also, honestly, it's probably one of the best nodes on the current mirrored tablet system is the Delve one for value, because even the level one will give you almost upwards of 3,000 azurite. If you're capped at sulfite, it feels really good to get like huge chunks of azurite there.
That's pretty.
Doubt it's worth it in trade, but who knows? You live in a fairyland.
Wait, the Lake of Calandra Delve tile gives you azurite. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the tier 2 one or there's one of them definitely gives you. It's not the tier 3. It's definitely one of the mid or the base tier one, but it gave me I think it was 1,000 per click. That was the one I did. I can't tell you how deep I was. Can't tell you how whatever, but it probably scales with difficulty, which it adds quantity. I hope so. But it was enough that I was like, oh shit, that's a lot of azurite. Because the resonators aren't too expensive. Like most crafting happens, I would say, like in 2 to 3 socket resos. So it's like for that sort of stuff, it was pretty affordable.
That's well worth.
Have you guys done like a lot of those, the mirrored tablets?
No.
Okay.
I have a tab full of them.
Up quite a few, and I ran 26 in one day, and the most I managed to profit out of it, I think, was maybe 10 chaos out of one of them. Otherwise, where the real profit came from for me was just pretty much unidentifying rares and selling them for like 40C, maybe 50C a pop or so.
I've run so far 64 and since the league start, most of which have been 80 plus, which is, if you know, the prerequisite. This league has only one unique for this league itself, right? It's the Calandra ring. And the drop conditions for that are pretty funky, unfortunately.
What is even the chance of acquiring it?
I know all the things. I'm the unique guy. I know the unique things, obviously.
All right, lay it upon us.
I'll lay it on you, nice and thick. So it's the drop conditions are you have to be in a level 80 plus zone to even have a chance of it happening. And what occurs is when you get a Calandra thing to pop up, reflecting mist, there's a chance that when you hit generate, one of those 2 slots will be replaced with the ring. And it could be in either slot. I've seen no proof of it could be in both slots. That'd be cool, but I don't ever seen it happen. And it could be in either one because we've seen versions of both. I've seen videos of it happening to confirm it. However, the rate of this ring generating seems to be currently the bar none rarest unique in the game. For its conditions. So it's quite unfortunate it's so tremendously rare, but yeah, it is. Its power level is quite high, and it's about as good as the best precursor / synth ring that exists in trade, I guess. Because if it was a rare, you just mirror it. So it kind of feels worse there. But like you could get some, in a vortex, you could legally get a synth herald ring that had +3 max all charge, or like +1 charge arcane surge on hit, and like curse on hit. So if that did happen, whatever, you can get some crazy stuff that you maybe want to duplicate, or a precursor, like you could legally use the ring on that.
Make a perfect Venter's gamble. Copy it.
Venters is good. Venters,
Oh, yes.
honestly, I probably wouldn't do this league because Venters drop rate is so buffed this league when they redid the tiers for uniques.
It's just not worth mirroring a perfect one.
Yeah, I think you'd probably just buy an approximate one. I think this, I'm not sure what's the price of the ring and trade. Last time I checked, it was over a mirror. I don't know what the current price is. I'm sure it's going to go down, and because there's more of them, but there's also less people playing, so I don't know.
I've had about 20 Venters drop in total, and I've only pulled one decent one for like a Divan, and it still hasn't sold.
I like that Ventors is common, honestly, because it's gonna be shit 99% of the time, and you could just 3-1 them. It's the only unique I've probably ever 3-1 to reroll, and I've been doing it every time I get 3.
I totally forgot that exists. I need to go. Man.
Oh no!
What's the Calandra ring called?
Calandra's. Just type in Calandra. It's gonna
Calandra's touch ring. All right.
Touch. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna search.
Calandra's consensual embrace.
Ring.
100 divine orbs.
That makes
sense.
Yeah.
Is that is a mirror, right? Or how much is a mirror?
It's not
150.
Mirror's 180, right?
I have no idea.
Hopefully,
okay, so half a mirror around.
Oh.
Yeah, in my
99, 100 divine.
In my 64 mirror tablets I ran, the best drop was 1 divine, which I got to drop, which is pretty good, I guess. And everything else was like just trash currency. It's a lot of trash currency. There's no reason not to do them. I don't think in SSF, as if you have them, if you don't mind going slow, because they're not fast to go through. Almost every tile is going to be like a boss fight, basically. It's like a battle of attrition. But getting the untainted one feels great.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's about the best feel you get out of this place. I think for those, like the general loot consensus is not good. But
same in trade, because those untainted ones are worth quite a bit of money.
But also in trade, you get the really fun, like the best part of trade from a non-trade leader's perspective who used to play trade is like the days of like doing beachhead rotations, doing that sort of stuff. I think that doing rotos for these, the glory days, doing untainted rotations is like, if anyone who's playing trader now, like within a couple hours a day, that like level of play, you should have a level 100 this league, like pretty easily.
Those
because
insane, those tiles.
At level 96, I'm currently getting, when I do one, 15 to 20% if it's like above difficulty 13, which is just better than anything else in the game, pretty much. Bar, I think
a pure Chiula would be better.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure these are better. You can do the difficulty 16 or 17. Yeah, but that's one. That's me. If you're doing rotation, even if I'm doing pure Chiula, I think it'd probably be less. That was on difficulty 13. You can go up to difficulty 17.
Then at that point it's probably better. I just remember pure Chiula is giving me like 1.5% on the way from 99 to 100, and that's pretty crazy.
It should be more than that. I think the technical thing that gives the most is still Replica Cortex, but that's an impossible thing to keep up with.
Yeah,
it's crazy expensive. But yeah, there's no shortage of fun. Yeah, so I had a friend who did a Replica Cortex rotation one league. He was like, "Yeah, this cost us 11 exalted each to do this, and it was mildly better, and we got nothing." Yeah, they were really expensive Replica Cortexes. I don't really know. It's just like that's a real 0.01% thing to do.
Yeah. So.
Exalted. That's so cheap. Yeah, Exalteds are worthless now. Oh, poor Exalted.
We're going to talk about that in a second, but first, Betta, do you want to share a little bit about your tablet running? What have you been doing in the reflections? How do you perceive them? Do you think they're worth running? You're in trade, right? So do you probably feel like there's better uses of your time, unless justified by extreme luck or I don't know.
I did originally run my tablets because I didn't necessarily know how the mechanic works, basically. So I was like just throwing it together and open up the tablet, run through it, and basically before they patched it to increase the drops in that, right? I was literally getting maybe 1 chaos out of my tablets. And then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to start saving them up. So what I tried to do was try and get as many of the T3 and T4 nodes together as far away from the entrance as possible, because that's basically how I understand it works. Obviously, I don't know the league mechanic like inside out or anything, but I just wanted to save them up to have a fun day on stream. And I saved up 24 of them, and then I decided, when was it? It was it was a couple of days ago. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to run all of them together and then see if it's actually worth it, right? And I think when my first 5 or 6 tablets were absolutely terrible. I got literally nothing out of them. And then the 7th one, I got a few essences, maybe a few chaos drop. And then, of course, as I kept on getting deeper and deeper into it, kept on telling chats, yeah, guys, like, I don't think this is profitable at all, because I literally wasn't getting anything worth my time, you know? If I was Alkin going maps, right, I would have pulled way more currency than spending 10, 15 minutes on a tablet. And what's even worse for me, right, is say when you're halfway through a tablet and you end up dying, then you have to run all the way back. And it just wastes so much time, man. And it kind of kills the like fun to reward factor. And I mean, I love playing PoE, and no matter what they do in the game, right? I'm always gonna enjoy myself. I'm always gonna love the game. But of course, it does make it very, very tedious doing these tablets. So in my opinion, I don't think it's actually worth it. If anything, I would just pretty much juice up the tablet and then just sell it. I think you'll end up making more profit that way, which I think I'm gonna start doing soon, is just sell them.
Okay. After you ran more than 20, do you feel that there's a good amount of the special league rewards coming, like the reflective mist that allows you to pick one of the 2 rings? Did you even have one where you could put in a ring or like a amulet yourself, or?
Unfortunately not. Yesterday I managed to finally find a reflecting mist, and I'm yet to still try that out. But in terms of the rings and in terms of the actual rings that you do get from Calandra when you hit the button, is what I call it pretty much. It's just like trash. I mean, and I've checked it time and time after again on trade, right? I'm like, yo, this could be a decent ring for like this bold, right? And then I'll price check it, and then you just see like 3 chaos, 4 chaos, 5 chaos, and it's like, okay, let's just add this other stat maybe, and then it turns into a 1 chaos ring, and then you're like, nah, dude, nah, come on, man. I just spent like 10 minutes doing this, and now you want to give me a ring that I can't even sell? Wow.
Yeah.
In terms of the
Similar vibe.
Yeah. In terms of the other league rewards and that, especially like Legion, I think that is rather profitable without a doubt. And pretty much the tainted ones as well. It does end up dropping quite a few tainted currencies in that. Trying to think what other one was pretty decent. The expedition ones I thought were going to be good.
Yeah, so
but I think the most, but
You
the
think
most
so?
that you
I
get
did
is,
like a couple temples between today and the other day on stream, and I felt like the expeditions were fairly quick to do, and you get reroll currency. But like, I mean, I didn't do a whole lot of samples, so
it is really quick to do it because there's like maybe 10 enemies, and then the like little boss dude that can drop maybe like 7 of the rerolls or whatever.
Yep.
But I don't really find it all that rewarding because you can literally do a expedition in a map and receive 2, 3, maybe even 4 times that original amount just from that one expedition in a map. Yeah.
It seems like it's capped or something, because I did a difficulty 16 expedition 1, and I got 6 rerolls. And I did a difficulty 15,
the highest
and
I
I
did
got
was 9.
6 rerolls. I did a difficulty 9 and 10, 3 maybe, like 4. It just seems like there's some weird, like the league mechanics don't really seem to scale with the difficulty appropriately for the, like, just the time it takes to do any of the scaling seems kind of wonky.
From what I gathered, like anything beyond like difficulty 7 becomes like incredibly hard to do. Well, the rewards don't scale up in the same way that the challenge does.
Metamorph, I wouldn't even dream of putting on past like 12. I did 1, And it was
It's
harder
already,
than
like,
doing any
super
boss
bad.
I've done this league.
Just because of the
Yeah.
fact it's rogue metamorph and you don't get to say any, like, you don't get to have any say in what organs go in and what abilities the
Get
thing uses.
too little intrinsic catalysts. Cool, man. It's like after all that work.
Oh, but you get double the catalysts.
Oh shit!
Wow.
Times 0, 0.
4 intrinsic catalysts. Yay.
Oh
You were
yeah.
asking about the rings as far as the rares, like the duplicate stat ones, and in the 64 I ran, I didn't keep a single one. They were all absolute trash because it's just like it's great when you see something like 97 fires or 120 decks, whatever. But it's just all it takes is one roll to totally ruin it.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the effort to offset that. Like there's certain builds have a much higher proclivity to be able to utilize these things. I think one of the ones I've seen especially is agnostic builds have a much higher chance because you don't really need certain, like it's okay to eat certain stats, or even having like obviously a Doriani's build, you get negative lightning, that's could be beneficial, but 90% of the builds there's gonna be a lot of silver bullets in those jewelry. That's just, and the
They
fact
can't
that it's,
utilize jewelry.
yeah, and even more to that point, the fact that it's not 100% chance to even generate, per run is crazy to me. That like if I do an I-83 mirrored tablet, like the fact that Calandra's not guaranteed. Like I could do 4 or 5 in a row and not see her, or she could appear then fly away, which is even more insulting. It's like that's really sad. One time I had it where she doubled it, where she turned dark and stormy, yelled at me, and spawned 2. And that was cool,
That's
but even
happened
that
to me twice
felt
as
like,
well, yeah.
even that was like this should just be the fucking baseline, because it's still like I haven't seen one new base first off in that set, because there's like
Same.
4 or 5 new ring base. Haven't seen one.
Okay,
So
I'd
those
see
must be
Same,
rare.
yeah.
that doesn't align with
Like-
my experience at all, because like just before the podcast, I ran 2 on each of the 2 tablets. I got to pick jewelry, and one of the 2 was even a base that I hadn't seen before. It was
There you go.
reduced or increased duration of ailments on you, depending on whether you wear it on the left or right ring slot. But yeah, obviously,
That's the path experience, man.
I don't have to say
Like-
that they were garbage in terms of explicit stats. Both
Yeah.
variations.
But you could save them, val them, and then get a clean one, right?
Yeah, I definitely saved
you
the
wanted
special
to.
funky ring base because I
would-
knew
yeah,
that's the thing.
Those listing. Save all those special bases you get. If you're val them, get 5 corrupted ones, vendor them, get a clean one. That might be worth something. And when you retire from Path.
Well, I mean, I'm doing
Bond.
HCSSF this time around, so I don't really care about the value. But
Your
hey,
retirement plan.
maybe I can make like a crazy self-chill build or something like that. Although I don't know how much that build
Maybe.
would value
Yeah.
the duration of ailments. I don't know whether that's a bottleneck on that setup.
I think that the best base out of the lake rat has to be the gloam rings, because if you vendor 5 of
First
them,
one?
okay, you can get a nice clean base that you can actually craft on. And what I've been doing is you just throw on a couple of bound fossils. At the moment, it's between 1 and 5 bound fossils, right?
Mhm.
And then you can land minion damage, minion life, and minion attack and cost speed, right?
Oh yeah, but,
And then you
but
can
bone
legit
rings
sell the
are a
ring
new
for, like,
base in this expansion, but bone rings are
them.
not limited to the Lake of Calandra, unlike the other bases, right? Bone rings you
Yeah.
can drop anywhere. So
I did do some crafting on the bone rings, and it seemed like the chance was way lower, and that's why I decided to craft some gloam rings, which I'm really happy about, because minions taking 15% less damage really, like, you can actually see the difference when you have equipped the ring.
Allegedly, the gloam ring should be like even better now that they're making it so minions should survive more, right? Isn't that like something in the patch tomorrow or whatever? The next day?
In the patch, they are significantly reducing the damage that bosses, specifically bosses, do to all of the minions, which I don't really see why, because I haven't been having a problem with mine.
well, I
So
mean,
most bosses already have that, is the thing.
Some
Most
have
bosses already
weird
have
things.
that, and there's some that just didn't get it for
Yeah.
some reason.
Such as
Ash.
Cyrus's last phase, instantly melting animate guardians and that, yes.
Yeah.
Because of that bleed. So I'm kind of hoping that does get fixed. Although this league, I have killed him before he can even do that.
Big sad. They're making it so the delve mobs don't spawn four arch. Was it? It's four arch nemesis things will no longer spawn. and
I know
mechanics
for sure
don't
that
drop
the
rares
heralding
or-
minions doesn't
or don't
spawn
have-
anymore. They fixed the
Those
Deadeye
were-
thing by making it so that the mark does go away from your character after you've moved away for a very far distance or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
The
think
question is, how far do you have to move away now?
that is the
Yeah,
question. Also, hopefully it's a line of sight thing and not just around a corner still counts because like the distance is the same.
I think it's gonna be like at least 5 screens or so. It's like it specifically says a great distance in the announcement.
I think
Great
it'll be.
distance meaning out of the map.
I think the great
Quality
distance will be that range at which mobs stop being interactable. You know how like you can't tornado shot something that's 2 full screens off the edge of your screen because it just disappears, right? Like it gets frozen essentially. I think that's
that
the
makes
distance.
sense.
I think that's where it's going to be.
I
Never
honestly assume that
off-putting.
it's even bigger.
So they were off-putting the lack of a use of actual numbers and just these arbitrary words to you. You see things like the greatly reduced, very reduced, nearby, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always like, I always
Very
wonder what the.
underwhelming.
Well, I'm just always curious why they don't just tell us the number.
Yeah. I think that they don't disclose the numbers specifically because they don't want the player base to actually know the true values, right? So they want the players to basically play the content over and over and then provide feedback, and then that way they can adjust rather than throwing out a number and then players are like, no, instantly that's not enough, or call them out that it's shit.
Yeah,
basically.
GGG has a
you know?
history of not wanting to share like exact numbers with the player base because they don't want like mechanics in the game to be reduced to their numerical values. But specifically with stuff like that, with like ranges on abilities and like melee hit ranges and in general these units, this is such common knowledge among players who are looking to be good at the game that I think it should be something that should be like more common inside the game as well. They should more commonly refer to the number of units that like certain auras or certain effects have, radiuses or like I don't know, like radius diameters, whatever you want. It's just like the players who care about those things are gonna figure them out anyway, and it just feels like the gap between people who figure those things out and people who don't really bother beyond like just playing the game, the gap is just too big, and there's no reason why this should be so obscure or like so outside of the game.
Yeah,
really normalize giving us unit numbers. GGG, that would be
I'm
great.
still of the purist mentality that I think that you should be able to figure out Path of Exile without having to like Google anything, basically, as far as just the basis of how things operate should be all within the game. I don't like the concept of like requiring me like just to know the basics shouldn't have to be look up exactly what this does, or how this interacts with something else. Like that should all be very much displayed within the game.
Spreadsheet warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like third-party resources are always going to be better in terms of like how the information is presented and organized and explained, right? Like the game doesn't have that much space where it could explain at length how those things work, but at least give people a chance to like sort of read it in the game rather than
even
having
just
to look it up.
what affects what. Like you have this super terrible help section in game that goes over loosely defenses and mentions that armor produces physical damage taken. That's the line it says in the help section. But then right beneath it says bleeds do physical damage, but it's not mitigating like that damage.
It doesn't work.
So it's just it just is like what the fuck. I just feel like there's often this like set of if we can't do it better, we might as well not do it at all kind of thing. Where it's just like, well, why you gotta give up instantly? All we really want is just like a glossary and just like tell us what works with what. I mean, it doesn't have to be a dissertation. We already have the framework in game. It's the help button, or next to your favorite button, the shop button. Shouldn't be an option. You can even go click to help, and right next to it be like, "Ooh, look, I can go to the shop and buy something." You can float into marketing. Who gives a shit? Just there should be like, we shouldn't have to. I mean, look it up, and especially since now they're like basically in charge of the wiki for the most part. It feels like that you could just have it redirect to the wiki. Like you could have all that shit redirect to the wiki. It shouldn't be a problem.
I'm really happy about the wiki though, because now we can actually see the true values on certain things. For instance, when I was originally beginning to make my build guides and that, right? I was looking up the information, especially to like clip the gems to put it on screen while I was talking, and a lot of them were just outdated, and I found that very, very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, a good example for those, I'm sure someone who's watching like plays RuneScape here. There's literally a fucking button. There's a wiki button in game. You could click the button, click on anything in game, and it redirects you to the wiki. Like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Information. But like, it's just having that partnership with the wiki, and they're doing all the work for you. All you have to set up is just the hyperlink system, and it would solve like half the problems this game has as far as information sharing, I think. I mean, it's such an easy integration to do in a game like Path. I'm always curious why they just are so anti information sharing in game. You know, like we got like a mysterious thing we have to not tell them. So in week 2 they'll figure it out. And then they just like. But the thing is, like it's especially prevalent in Path because people plan stuff so heavily, right? Like one of the most offensive things about whatever amount of things we weren't told in the beginning of the league start is like that. People had entire plans set up. For example, like whether Balor's whole juicing map thing, like that got shat on, right? I mean, it's really disappointing if you were someone who doesn't have the same time to invest to recover from that mistake, you know, when you just took off your weekend and it's like, I wanted to go do this, but if I only would have known what was what the information was, I would have totally changed my plan and still had a great time playing. But I was only given partial information. Like it's just
I could have had a far better league start just with the knowledge, and I would have been way less upset than I was in week 1 if I just knew what was going on and didn't make a plan that was directly ruined.
I mean, more than half the Path of Exile content creators have quit at this point. Ziggity stopped playing yesterday. Like most people are just stopped playing because they're disappointed with certain things. I think all of that is really easy to like mitigate that level of annoyance, because again, it's not so much that people are gonna just like baby rage because their one thing got ruined. We just would audible, like we're used to changing our plans. It's not like the end of the world, you know. It's just okay. My plan got changed. This got nerfed. This whatever. Like, you know, we'll just change plans and it's fine. But like that stems from information sharing, which I think is really comes down to the foundation of just like information isn't really accessible in this game, inside the game, which, you know. Gotta go to the library to figure out how shit works sometimes.
You always have to find out behind the scenes and they'd be like, oh shit, dude, they changed this. Yeah. No ways.
Yeah, imagine if only the library would unlock like a more updated and in-depth encyclopedia, like doing the library quest.
There's ways to do like not telling people things and mysterious things that are really fun. And it's just like build defining information is not one of them. Like, you know, exactly. It's like, oh, like here's a new unique. It's about, you know, or like discovering how the fishing uniques drop. Like that's a thing that like people can work towards, or even just saying, hey, there's an exalted recipe in game. Go figure it out. Like that's not going to make or break someone's league start. But like not telling them like maybe their build doesn't work anymore. That's a bummer. Or not telling them that the league mechanic they're going to focus on, you know, isn't really good anymore. Like that's a really big bummer. So that stuff seems to be like any information regarding the game, how it operates as being played, to not be in game and available is like to me a no-brainer. How that isn't in game is like criminal.
I'm not even sure about like, you know, how rewarding a league is, whether that should be in game, but definitely like being able to hover an aura gem that you're using in your build that you're reserving mana for, and getting an indicator of how much range that aura effect has on your current build with the area of effect scaling that you have activated. I don't think that's like too much to demand, right? Like that's like normal. Yeah. Contemporary 2020 quality of life.
you could 100% hover an Origem in game, and it could just show you RF style around your character.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
that-
Like
that
a
could
range
be
indicator.
So good.
So that could be so easily implemented, because then you could be like, say you're playing RF, and you'd be like, wow, I don't have to invest in blasphemy radius because my aura is the same size as my RF, or it's the same size as my cleave radius. You know, I don't have to do, like, how that's not in game is like, these are just like very basic things that have existed in gaming for 20 years.
It's not information that is not accessible for some reason, and you know that you would make unreasonably accessible with that change, because you can already go into a map and see at which point, like how close you have to walk up to a monster until they're affected by the curse, until the curse symbol appears on top of their head.
Yeah.
So like just being able to find that out in your hideout without having to enter an enemy map and like walking into the range, I don't think that would hurt anything. And like vice versa, I don't think it's going to hurt people's playtime if they could figure that out efficiently, right? Like it's not going to.
But you're going to keep you in game more because you're going to be testing stuff more. That's the sort of flavor of quality of life, I think. And there's 1,000 examples of this that I think Path desperately needs.
Well, we're getting one of them. We're getting the life force display on the Hordy crafting station now. You're gonna have to not
but you
have
can't,
to open your stash to find out how much life force you have.
Not view your item. Should not show your item still when you're trying to craft something. Like you still have to hover over it, right?
What do you mean?
Yep.
I believe so.
If you have an item in the Horror crafting station,
it doesn't show the item without you hovering it.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it used to display the item in the old Harvest? Or am I going crazy?
No, you still have to hover over it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of Rod crafting, where it shows the item side by side.
But it is an awesome change
unveiling.
that we can now. It is an awesome change that we are now going to be able to actually see how much life force we have. Because I had the same issue whereby, you know, I'm busy hitting craft there, and I'm like, wait a second, I need to go back to my stash, go check quickly. And it's like, wait, go underneath the tab. Okay, you know, I've got 6,000 left. Okay, cool. Let's go back to crafting. You craft a bit more. It's like 5 minutes later, you're like, am I actually running out of life force now? Or what's going on?
Yeah, because sometimes you want to, like, you have a certain plan in your head and you want to be able to hit another craft after you hit the one that you're just working with, and you just need to know. And without trying to sound a little bit too much like Captain Hindsight, but like, why is stuff like that? Why was the life force display not in to begin with when they revamped Harvest?
The hover thing also, I guess I realized after I said it why it makes sense that it would be displayed, because then you could just keep clicking Reforge. There's no reason to click the button then go back and forth. If you just saw your item displayed, you hit Reforge, you could see it didn't hit your tier 1 fizz roll, then you could just hit Reforge again. So it's just adding another step that didn't need to be there, I guess.
It is rather frustrating to have to hit Reforge. You go onto your item, you have to check it, then you're like, okay, you know, Reforge again, check the item again, okay.
Yeah, that was what I meant. I just couldn't. It didn't come to me initially. Almost like we get sent an itinerary before this podcast, and I did not prepare. Maybe just.
I did mentally.
Same. I did spiritually. There you go.
It still counts. It still counts.
Good. Yeah, I mean, there's I think if they did not that they would ever do a poll, but if they ever did a poll and just said, you know, we're gonna take 3 months off, we'll do a full league reset, right? It'll be a new economy, but we're not changing anything. And every 2 days, you're gonna get a new quality of life update for the next 3 months. How well received that would be.
Ooh.
I'm curious.
Ooh.
I think that would be like just one of the greatest things ever. I think it'd be most important. I think it'd be extremely healthy for the game. Like, so often I harp on, like, most changes that happen in game don't really affect me too much, and I don't, and may even align with my interests, but I don't think they're for the betterment of the game. I think that would be for the betterment of the game. And people saying, "Oh, the league will be dead halfway." Well, we're down to 28% player retention, so suck a bag of lemons, because it doesn't fucking matter. Clearly, I mean, that's not a concern at the moment, man. Yeah, it's like you basically sacrificing one league to make the next one far superior.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, if you do look back on previous leagues, that's kind of how it is. We sort of get like 2 really good leagues and then 1 poor one, and then people like complain about it, and then they reintroduce quality of life and then that like third, fourth league is insane and so much fun. And then the fifth one as well, super insane and fun. And then, we have like, so I'll basically call it filler leagues.
Yeah.
So instead of them building on the like awesome ideas that they do initially come up with, instead they just quickly like finish off the league and then they immediately start with the next one rather.
Yeah.
Okay, so by that definition, would you consider Lake of Calandra a filler league?
Yes. Because technically it is based on synthesis. I mean, if you look at how the tile sets and that works, right?
If you look at how half the player base quit and we're still waiting for basic improvements for people to come back and play the league, that was exactly the same in synthesis.
Does that mean that does that mean that just like synthesis, like around the start of the third month, there'll be some like massive patch that changes the whole thing and it becomes the most fun I've ever had?
Because
that's what happened in synthesis.
Does that also mean we get a flashback race?
Ooh.
I'll take a flashback. Let's go.
Oh yes, any day, man.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much faith, to be honest, though, we're going to get any more substantial patches this league, personally. I assume we've seen the close to the best we're going to see. I think they might roll out hard
hopeful.
mode.
And I'll always remain hopeful because either way that you do look at it, right, GGG will always be working to improve on things. Obviously, they won't do it in like immediate time as everyone expects them to. But I mean, they can only technically do so much at a time, especially because they're working on the next league and the fact that they're pouring more of their money towards PoE2, as Chris himself has already confirmed, that they are putting more time and effort towards PoE2 to make that better. And also, the reason why this league hasn't gone so well and that they made such a dramatic change without telling us is because they wanted to see the reaction of the community and to pull more feedback, right? Because if they intentionally gave us exactly the numbers on the nerfed loot and everything, I feel like then they wouldn't receive as much feedback that they could then use for PoE2, basically. And that's why I'm just remaining hopeful, and I do trust that they know what they're doing, but at the same time, not really know what they're doing.
Well, I mean, we're left hanging a little bit. We're not exactly sure where GGG themselves see the current position of the game and like where they want it to be, especially on some of the more hot topics currently with the community, with the crafting or with the
hot topics
or the juicing. We're not entirely sure whether they're happy with the current state of the game and with how people see it. That it basically is viewed as almost worthless to fully invest into your maps, and like a medium investment strat is the most that you can go with. I don't know whether that's where they want it to be. As for the lakes, I've not run that many lakes myself, mostly because I always know that there's more changes coming. I feel like in a weird sort of way, knowing that there's more improvements coming to an ongoing league is great, but at the same time, it sort of hurts my enjoyment that I currently have with the league, because a lot of things I don't engage with as much as I would, right? Because if I know that my tablets are going to be buffed in a couple of days with the new patch, then am I going to really run them right now? I'm going to wait until they're buffed. And if I know that after that they're not like finished with buffing that, there might be still more buffs coming, then I don't know. It's like it's really hard to know what you're doing when nothing's final. Does that resonate with you, Lighty? You...
To be fair, you froze halfway through that for me.
So,
but
I hope I
didn't
didn't freeze on stream. No, I don't freeze
I'll
on
follow
stream.
you to the grave. It's fine.
Okay.
Well, I don't even know the last thing you said. I heard.
Well, I was saying
you
that
said
it hurts your
the fear
enjoyment of
missing out.
the. Yeah, no. What I'm saying is basically when there's constantly patches coming, improving loot in the ongoing league, then you have a problem. Like you don't really know how much time you should put into which mechanic right now, because any time that you put into like farming lakes, for example, could be wasted because it could have been better if you waited until after the patch.
I think you could extend that principle to the fucking moon and drive yourself crazy if you wanted, because I'm farming Trial Masters, and the first league Trial Master comes out, and if it can't, I can't imagine it'd be ever worse than it is right now, and I don't think Path will ever be as bad for loot as it is right now. So it begs the question why I haven't played the game versus just waiting till it's better next league. I mean, you could just keep extending that mentality outwards. I think that you do the content you want to do, and you're living in a fucking pile of shit, and you just hope that it doesn't smell as bad as you think it smells at the moment. I'm going to keep running lakes. I was running lakes the day before they're even getting buffed, because why else the fuck am I in Calandra League if I'm not doing Calandra stuff, you know? It's just, I just don't understand why, like, I personally wouldn't engage with the content. And yeah, it's 3 months is a very long, short time. That's how I like to describe it. There's so much to do, so much to see, you know, nothing wrong with taking the back streets. It's fun, but I always feel like next week's going to be a better way to do lakes if I'm just going to wait, you know. But I still run them now, because even if they're going to get buffed tomorrow, I'll be running them tonight anyway. I'll just get new ones. I can't just keep holding on, hoping for a better tomorrow. It's like a little, like a beaten wife just praying to not have my husband come home. It just feels bad waiting for, you know, PG
What
to,
is that metaphor doing?
maybe tomorrow will be a better day. It's like, yeah, maybe, but at the moment, this is what we got. So
okay, but that's because you're a veteran, because you've been playing for so many years, and you're probably like very familiar with that specific 100%. Aspect of an ongoing league.
I have the opposite. Like every time they're saying, "Oh, buffs," and I'm like, "Well, no point in running these yet, then." And now I've got like a tab nearly full of them, and even when it is buffed, I'm like, "Man, there's so many."
It's gonna take so long, dude.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, even when they buff it to the point where it's good, I now have so many of them that I don't even want to run them anymore.
I feel like Baylor's the kind of guy who, when his mom said clean a room, he puts all his fucking clothes in his closet. That's the difference.
Shove it underneath the bed there. Pull the sheets down. There we go. It's clean, Mom.
Say no and then don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but you're in trade league, so you know your opinion is worth less. Confirmed. Timestamped. All right, I mean, I see both sides. 100%. It depends. If your love for engaging with the content trumps your sensibility of making profit, it'll especially be like, oh, without question, I'm just going to wait, because at no point in time is this going to be as worse as it is now versus if I went at next league. I mean, and that can extend until just the league is done. So it really depends on how you want to maximize your profit. On the flip side, let's think about it from the trade league perspective. You not running your lakes because next week they're going to get buffed. Well, you run them now, you could maybe perch something that's going to spike next week. For example, if I ran my 10 lakes I have now, I could have got enough to buy a Matsuwaddle's Machination Shield, and now it's spiked to 50 Divines the week later. So it's hard to say in a trade league setting if it's worth running a content versus sitting on it.
Yeah, because everything's connected. Everything's going up and down.
It's such a personal and anecdotal experience, because your sample size could mean nothing to reality. You could just get lucky in your lake, and now lakes are good for you, right? If you just got like if you ran 2 lakes and got 2 divines, your total perspective of the league might shift, even if nothing has actually changed.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I say that, but in one of my lakes, I got 4 divines in the lake, and I still walked out being like, this content isn't worth running.
Yo, 4 divines, 1 lake? Nah, dude.
Wow.
Streamer
like
clients, guaranteed.
It was just like, it happened from a loot goblin, and I was like, I could have seen that loot goblin in a map. The fact that it's in a lake doesn't matter. And I was like,
Not the loot goblins.
I'll put back to
3.5 confirmed. Loot goblins. No.
I mean, every lake could be the lake where you get like an insane amulet, right? Have you guys seen the amulet Quinn posted on Twitter? Wait a second, I'm gonna bring it up here.
Wait, which one was that?
Quinn 69 had an amulet, 6 all positive stats.
Yo, dude.
Dex Int hybrid base with 92 intelligence, 62 crit multi, 87 energy shield, 142 max life, 9 life gain on hit with attacks, and 73% increased elemental damage with attack skills.
That's crazy.
Is that the same Quinn who spent 10 grand on Diablo Immortal?
Yes.
Oh, sick.
Just a name. He's
Okay.
a reformed man now.
Wasn't sure.
I'm sure.
He's reformed now. Got it.
Without a doubt.
No, but like this is probably like one of those examples where this is like 1 in a million thing that you could get from the league mechanic. Like, I mean, you could probably run a million tablets and not get a 6 all positive with such nice stats. But this, I think, is really good. And this is probably on the top 10% of league possible rewards. There's really no downside about this amulet other than that the implicits are rolled poorly. And I mean, it can't be influenced and you can't easily anoint it. Has anyone
That
gotten
anointing them is the worst.
anyone gotten any of the mirrored oils?
Nope.
No.
How do you get them?
I have
Only
no
from
idea.
mirrored blighted maps? Like the
Assuming
tainted
it's
oil you only get from the
Mirrored
corrupted.
maps.
Yeah, I'm genuinely
on
curious.
eBay.
I haven't seen a mirrored oil yet.
Just buy one online. Easy.
Yeah, but if I were to do it in
Oh, it's full
SSF,
cell phone? Oh, you're too bad. Wrong game mode.
Wrong game, man.
Wrong game mode. Sorry, friend.
They're only like 20 chaos.
all right,
The
that's
buy.
fair.
That means that they're
So-
pretty common then.
So they must be farmable, but I don't know how.
Yeah, just regular
That's
blighted
me
maps
through-
like tier 14 plus, probably.
Yeah.
I think you have to be playing on DX12 for them to drop.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
The drop condition. Their way of pumping DX12. Please use DX12 so you get more oils. Makes sense.
Yep.
I haven't done a single blight map this league. Yum, yum, yum. Simply no need.
Yeah, I do blighted maps, like because I started with a summoner character, and so that was like sort of my strat. And blight is one of the chest reward
Sweet
leagues.
spots.
I kind of
Mm.
like blight. Although I
This
have
guy
to say
running
I'm
blight
looking
maps.
forward to my blighted maps way more than I did last league. Right now, because
Yeah.
just my maps are not that rewarding.
Have you had any of the touched mobs spawn in the lanes that drop nothing?
No.
They do drop.
Wait.
It drops from the pump in the end, right?
Oh, does it? Okay.
I
Because
thought like,
Harbinger
all the
ones,
loot from
those
the
can
from
drop
the mobs.
nothing.
So Harbinger touched mobs drop loot.
They can. However, if you're fighting
they
one and the
despawn,
Harbinger ends,
Yeah.
then they don't drop anything.
Yeah.
I had that happen to a Katava. I think it was Katava something. It was Katava
Yeah.
Solid or something. It dropped nothing, and I was like, "Oh, cool, man."
I've lost a few molested mobs for that. My Harbinger just ends. But
Man, what a
if you
change in
manage to kill that
terminology.
rare, then it does
From Krangle to
drop
this.
its loot.
That's
Perfect.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're being changed, right?
Yeah.
I
In
hope
the
that
patch.
doesn't affect Harbingers.
Oh, it did. It does. It said they're dropping they only can spawn two.
Yeah, but it says mobs that don't drop loot will only be able to spawn two
Oh, I
and won't
thought-
be able to be.
I
But
said
the
it
Harbinger
had that
ones
listed
do.
on- They can, unless they don't.
So I'm hoping that they're not changed because I've got Harbinger in all my strategies
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
the-
like
the-
doing Harbinger. And if they
The way that they
prove
phrase
that,
it, it means monsters that cannot drop loot, not monsters that do not
Immediately.
drop loot.
Yeah.
Because if they do not
Yeah.
drop loot, I
Oh.
mean the Harbingers potentially can drop loot even if they do not drop loot, so they're not
I
affected
think
by
saying
it.
this out loud is depressing. What you just said.
I was just about to mention
It's
that.
not the mobs in the game that can't drop loot. It's the ones that don't drop loot. Why do we have either? Like, what? Are we not playing a fucking ARPG?
Did you
Am I in
see
the wrong
Reddit
store?
post
What-
where
what did
where they said that this is the buff that we need? Monsters that do not drop loot do now drop loot.
Yeah.
I have never got the sense more that the creators of this game are on the side of the enemy and not of the player more than recent times. Where it's like I feel like they've really lost sight of like the fun of like an ARPG, and especially like this one. has definitely been put on the bench a little bit.
See, there are times when mobs not dropping loot is fine and also hilarious. Like, I've seen a few screenshots of people in Tainted Paradise with like a touched rare that's going to drop nothing.
Hilarious when it doesn't
That's
happen
hilarious.
to you because someone else is having the misfortune. That's why it's hilarious. Not if it's like hour 102 and you just saw your first Solaris touched and it's an untainted. That is no longer hilarious.
I don't know. I feel like I'd still find that funny.
Yeah, well, it's
But
a
in that
different tune when
exact
when your
specific
car
case.
gets keyed. Like maybe.
Like in that specific case where you're in Untainted, that's funny.
My first Lunaris touch was spawning in. I saw it spawn in a heist, Grand Heist, as I was leaving. The second I clicked on the exit, I saw Lunaris. I was like,
that
"Well,
sounds
there it goes."
painful.
Oh no.
I was like, "Yep, that's that. Cool beans."
Oh
Damn.
man, that's terrible.
Okay, I have a question for Solar Self-Found people. Has everyone adapted to running a gold flask forever on every build yet?
No,
No.
I will
You
not
should
run a
try
gold
it.
flask. I refuse.
It's how you get all your loot back.
No,
It's a very sad way to get all your loot back, but I think every single build this entire league should be running a gold flask.
I would rather eat my own
I
shit.
should.
How about that? Run a fucking gold flask permanently.
I don't know which flask to swap out for a gold flask, honestly. Like one of my
Yep.
two life flasks probably, but I can't sacrifice the quartz flask, I can't sacrifice the quicksilver, I can't sacrifice the granite.
Well, you're only supposed to have one life.
I think they
flask
should.
anyway,
I think they
so-
should just full stop. Just remove rarity quantity from the game on all gear.
Oh, don't do that. My favorite thing.
Yeah, that's
then
a
they
big
could actually.
question.
You could appropriately balance the entire game then, because as it stands right now, it's like total horseshit. The current system.
That is a really good question, actually. Yeah, is in terms of the Magic Fund color meta that's currently going about. I think it's yeah.
Do you find
What do you
yourself
guys think about
perceiving
it?
any fear of missing out when you find like
I mean,
a good touch
he was
monster?
Baylor's talking about fear of missing out for fucking running myths. If you don't call someone in that exists in league, the best person that exists in league to call your thing, you're losing out big time. Like
It's not as bad as we thought.
it is as bad as you thought. I think it is.
I've had a bunch of colors off TFT message me all their screenshots and stuff of like what an average person's map gets when they go to do a color. And we were originally thinking that a lot, like you're like missing like 10 or 15 divine orb drops. Most of the time they're getting 1 to at most 3.
That's still so offensive compared to the normal 1 chaos you get.
Well, when I do them on my own, I get usually at least 1 divine whenever I hit them. Ever since I
swapping
put on the
characters?
gold flask.
It's a gold flat. That's the break point you're saying.
No, ever since I put on the gold flask, I get at least 1.
Where the magic's at, boys. The gold
Life
flask.
began at gold flask. I have a tab right now in my stash that just is called poor game design. It's where I put all my IRIQ gear, just for the inevitability. I'll have to use it one day.
I actually love rarity and quant farming. It's what I've always loved in a bunch of different games. Anytime I can do that, it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't want that taken away.
The loot
Doesn't have to be taken
explosions are
away.
always moist, man. It's like a smooth shave.
But your playstyle shouldn't be pushed upon the entire game.
It never was.
It is right now, I mean, to a degree.
Oh, no, this exact thing where we're culling things, that's bullshit.
That's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
It's absolutely
not the
trash. I hate
concept.
that.
All
I agree on
IRIQ
that.
was fine before
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
the idea
what's going
behind
on
it
now is not
is
okay.
perfect. Like it's a trade-off, right? You're supposed to say, okay, I wear a bunch of verdant quantity, and because of that, the gear that has it is probably shit, and I'll be surviving a lot less and doing a lot less damage. This is the trade-off. And you want to swap out your own character, like that's one thing, but it just shouldn't be like forced upon everybody, or it's
Yeah,
such
no,
an obvious
that's-
difference. It's crazy. Like
There's a big issue. Like in the past, like you said, the Magic Find character gear is trash. Like it's
Yeah.
very bad.
I mean, in
And so
Scourge,
you have to like
running around with like 2K life and maybe half res, and
Yeah.
you get to do IQRs and it feels fun. But like that's a massive trade off. It's about opportunity cost, and currently there is none. And if like aside from just hopping characters, and the only twisted machination of a reasoning I could think is why they did something like this is because they've previously mentioned that portals are a resource they want players to use, and it's like maybe
Oh,
they're like,
no.
oh, well, they've said that quote before.
It's so much simpler than that, though. They just didn't know. They didn't know it was going to happen.
I try not to blame all their decisions on incompetence. Otherwise, I'd be just halfway down a whiskey bottle playing this game.
No,
But
they didn't. They 100% did not know that was going to happen.
how could a company of their size, $100 million company with 200 plus employees, not catch something like that?
Well, it doesn't mean that no one caught it. Someone they knew.
A few people,
Well, whoever it was,
were
wasn't-
beta testing it. And
What about all the
they
alpha
did
testers
mention
coming out
it.
saying like all that stuff? You know,
Yeah,
hey, we did all
whereby
this stuff, and no one fucking listened.
So
yeah,
what
whereby
happens is,
they were being ignored.
yeah, what happens is they don't know. They make all the changes. By the time they get the feedback and someone raises their hand and goes, you know, you've done this thing, it's too late in the development cycle. They don't have time to fix it, and it goes live.
Yeah, that's the impression I get as well, honestly.
They already pushed the league back launch a week. I don't. If they were like, we found a game-breaking issue, we're pushing it another week. I don't think that's
They didn't
worse
find a
than what
game-breaking
happened.
issue. They just weren't done with their like league that they needed to get on alpha to get it like at least minimum tested.
But it still doesn't change the fact that I don't understand why they wouldn't push it back another week. Then at that point,
I mean, this is all pure speculation, right? But
yeah.
I
Well, it's not
just
speculative.
think
Is the result? That's not speculative. We know what happened.
absolutely.
We just don't know. We're trying to identify the reasonable route in which they arrived at this conclusion. That's the speculation, right? And I feel like most reasonable results are still disappointing. Like either they caught it or they didn't know. You know, like trying to explain away what happened. The best and most likely scenario still doesn't look good.
I think they did catch on originally, but it was like swept under the carpet, you know, thinking that the original numbers and everything would be fine. And then when the league launched, then suddenly they realized, oh, hang on a second, wait, you know, the alpha testers were actually right. They weren't talking shit to us. And I think that's what happened, is that they thought that they were lying.
The default assumption is that the alpha testers are talking shit.
That breeds a lot
Yeah,
of questions,
dude.
right? I mean, that's a whole can of worms in itself. Are you not trusting your alpha testers? Do you have the right people? Do you have enough? Like, is there enough levels of different player types amongst them? Like,
So
It was definitely a miscommunication barrier, though, without a doubt.
here's
And
the
that's why
thing.
Chris has taken all of the weight, I guess you can call it now.
the
And
girth.
I mean, it's the very first time that we've ever seen him actually swear in an official post as well, which I found pretty hilarious myself, you know, whereby he admitted, yes, you know, I fucked up. It was like, wow, dude, okay, you know, like, calm down, man.
Was it the first time? I feel like recently he always does put himself into the line of fire and
Maybe
takes
on-
the blame
well,
for issues.
Yeah, but I
that-
don't think he's ever just said on a post as the CEO of the company. Really, I fucked up. Like
Oh
that
yeah,
sentence.
using the F
Straight
word.
up
Yeah,
right,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
That's unheard
bad.
of.
That's not great. Not great. Not great times.
Something interesting I've been thinking about a little bit lately is to do with alpha testers, though. Is it normal in video games that your alpha testers are just like players who play the game for free in their spare time? Because in every version of software development in the world, for
Should be
everything
paid,
else, alpha
yeah.
testing is a paid position.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And
Even
also,
if it's not paid incredibly well, even if it's not like a high up
specifically
paying
it's paid,
job, but
and
it's a paid job.
Traditionally, half of the people alpha testing have limited or no exposure to the game prior, so it's even more confusing.
You want a group of new players to alpha test, and you want a group of very experienced players to alpha test, and you want some in the middle to alpha test.
I can't. Again, they have so much money. I don't know why they would cut corners and something like that. And I just assume, like many things, it just never was a big enough problem to matter until now, possibly. And again, even now, the perpetual meme is that they make all their money for the most part on the top end of the league, right? As long as people buy whatever MTX is at the beginning of the league, the rest of the league can kind of just be trash for the most part. And as long as they come back, it's kind of irrelevant. So we might still be operating within the parameters of acceptable loss from a business, to the point where they could have not reverted the change. They could do nothing past this, and it's like, well, even alpha testers be damned. As long as people still buy at least 70% of the MTXs we previously had up, like, it's fine. We're still profitable. Still making.
I tell you what,
but
I will leave the softcore trade economy and play in solo self-found permanently to be let into the alpha servers so that I can give proper feedback and proper testing.
the thing is, content creators like such as ourselves and that, we are not allowed to get into like alpha testing. Is how I see it. Well, I believe it, right?
There are content creators in alpha.
Yeah.
Really?
I think Taiki and Sis both have alpha access.
Yeah.
Anyone who does racing isn't allowed, and anyone who can have individual effect on the economy isn't allowed. Which is why I said, if you let me in, I will leave to solo self-found. I will get out of the trade economy so that my advantage doesn't matter to anyone. I will fuck off to solo self-found, and I will not enter trade for like the first month of every league, so that I don't have any like advantage with my knowledge at all.
Yeah.
And I am a full-on degenerate softcore trade player. Like I don't like solo self. I will do that.
Yeah, ain't happening, Chief, unfortunately.
All right, looking back into the MF topic, do you guys think it's really is currently problematic? I pulled up a clip of a cute dog culling for someone on his MF character, and they only got like 17 chaos, 1 exalt, and a regal there. That's
only 17. Is that what you said?
17 chaos and 1 exalt.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's still 17 times the average outcome. Like if you were not to put on any IQ gear. So even that to me is like, again, my characters are wearing no IRIQ. They're not MF characters, right? They're not built for that. Best case scenario I've gotten, I think, is 2C. That's your pretty standard. That's like running 120 plus quant maps, like 2C.
I think I had 4 from mine.
If the low end is 17, that's still literally 17 or even 10 times the average scenario, like which is still offensive. And I would honestly almost accept this I would accept it as a part of the game way more if it was a system and service done in game, because I just hate the concept of a third party Discord server now effectively once again being so integral to Trade League, even if I don't play Trade League. It just
so
feels
much
filthy.
more important than it's ever been to.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like, and I've watched videos of people doing the process. It's like just.
They were like, "We're going to make TFT less mandatory. This is the most mandatory it's ever been."
Literally, yeah. It's pretty scary, to be honest.
We used to like MF Cole in like Path 1.0, like back when there was Shrine and Palace. Like those are the maps.
Oh yeah.
And you would get
piety
like,
runs.
You get piety down to 10%.
Man.
You'd swap on a color and you'd call it, and it would be drop like 10 rares, which was like the big loot. And that's like, I think that's fine for a map boss, but I think there's been such a disgusting shift. And it's even, we haven't even talked about Arch Nemesis, like the fact that you could fight a rare mob that is stronger than a pinnacle boss, let alone like the map boss should be the strongest thing in the map. If it's not a boss from another mechanic, I think it should be the strongest thing. Like just a regular rare.
Bosses.
I'm okay with buffing map boss as long as you buff the loot proportionally. Like, but and then I have no problem with someone swapping in. Oh yeah, you could triple their life, triple their damage, triple their loot. That's fine, and that scales up proportionally to MFing. Then just remove the option to MF rares if that could even like how substantial it is for Arch Nemesis, you know. And then the fact that you calling a boss is like it's an end of a map thing. It's not like, oh, I'm in the middle of a map. There's a rare. Let me get my. It just like feels so bad. And also rares are going to be occurring on average so much higher. Maybe not so much touch rares, but just like in general.
Okay, so you're saying you're fine with the general idea as long as it happens in a fixed point in the map, but you're not a friend of the random.
It already existed. I mean, it's just now being mandatory.
It realistically existed last league. The people get MF colors to do their map boss last league.
They've totally shifted how currency is generated for killing things now. If you do the same MF Cole setup on a map boss, you're going to get dick. Like that's the problem.
So the shift is what we used to get was 95% of our loot off just killing random mobs.
Yep.
And then 5% off killing specific things. Now we get about 5% off killing random mobs in your
overall
map and 95% off these specific things. So
you
it became
average
a
out
really
your
big
maps
deal.
sure. Yeah.
It became a really big deal to come and get a color for that specific thing that drops all the loot. Because it's that one mob, whereas it used to be spread over everything. And now it's this mob right here. That's all of your loot for the next 17 maps until you find another one.
So
that's
it's more so a problem of
95% of your
distribution
stuff comes from.
is what you're saying. Is like not the
massive
fact that we get
distribution
like these loot goblins on top of everything, and we get the option to get them MF cull to make them a little bit more rewarding, and then like turn a part of our rewards for say the last 100, 200 maps into a better, but like we actually like a significant part of the loot is modified. I mean, almost
like
all of it, basically.
The concept of an MF color as an integral part of Path, or sorry, as a niche optional part of Path, similar to an Aura bot or a Curse bot or a Lab Runner or a Delva. I think that's totally fine as long as it's a system that is, there's an avenue to advertise in game for the most part, or some sort of system in game I would like to see. We don't have to go back to the good old days of notice boards, but just like some function would be nice to have it in game. But even just as a concept, I think it's fine as a niche strategy, but not a mandatory mapping thing.
And in the past, it was we had MF colors. We've always had MF colors, right?
Yes.
But they never were advertising to go join other people's maps. You had an MF color as part of a designated group. There'd be 2 Aura bots and a Curse bot and a damage dealer, and you'd make this party with people and then go do things. You never were looking for random strangers to jump into their map to kill one mob. That wasn't. You designed a whole party around it, not.
Sure. It'd be cool, have them sitting in town advertising like MF Core looking for party, that sort of thing. I would love to go back to that day of Path. I mean, that'd be fun.
And even when you go back to party runs, right?
Yeah.
People were looking for groups. They weren't looking for a random person who had one boss. People were in trade or whatever, looking for a group of 6 people that would all do party runs. And, 6 people would then all go running out to their own instances of party, drop portals. Everyone would go back to town, join a place. And this party would do the MF runs, right? Yeah. That's fine. You want to build a party to do your Magic Find stuff? Absolutely. It's great. That's fun gameplay. I enjoy that kind of thing. And whether you enjoy it or not, it's fine that exists because it doesn't affect you directly. You don't have to go and you don't have to be like, oh, I'm leveling through the campaign. I just got to party. Better go find my MF cult. No, you'd never. So that was fine.
Yeah, Betta, you wanted to say something about the whole culling topic and MF?
So the only initial time when people would look to party or anything is in terms of the Aura bots. Everyone will start up an Aura bot, and then they'll advertise themselves, I'm looking to join someone for some magic finding and that stuff. But now I feel like it's done an entire 180 shift, whereby the Aura bots are no longer necessary, and everyone just wants that specific dude who has his magic farm gear and everything, and then everyone's insisting, yes, anything that drops is 50-50. And in a lot of cases, most of the time, a few divines drop, and then the person who initially requested the MFer to come in, right? He takes the loot and then just leaves the party, and then poof, he's gone, And I found that's
happening.
It has happened a few times, but I cannot confirm exactly how many times or whatever. But I feel like this is a really bad thing for the game, right? And the reason why I think it's really bad is because you can intentionally gain more, right, by relying on others, especially on a third-party way of doing it, instead of doing it in-game, how it used to be years and years back when people were advertising, we are running the Dominus runs and that stuff, right? And then, as you guys said, as a party of 6 people, everyone runs to Dominus or Piety, and then basically gets the boss to low life. Everyone joins in. It gets cold. Huge loot explosion, Yeah. And I kind of feel like that's what it should be like. It shouldn't be this one-on-one basis.
That's another avenue to scam people, but in all honesty, scamming has existed in Path since the game's inception, and I would almost consider the lack of protection that GGG as a company has put forth in scam prevention is basically their way of saying we're fine with scamming being in the game because it exists in almost every avenue of the game that has been implemented, whether it's from stones, Parandis, map culling, invitations, anything. It has literally existed forever, and they've not really done a whole lot about it. And I know that they've implemented a new report weight recently, but I don't know how much that's even like make a difference.
A new report? What?
I feel
We can enforcement for
way to
scamming,
report.
but it doesn't. I mean,
Here's the thing. I agree with everything. Just the one thing that sticks out to me that I always have to push back about is people are like, oh, third-party scamming. As far as path goes, TFT is the safest place you could possibly be. It has the most amount of checks and balances, the most amount of scam protection that can exist. You are the least likely ever doing anything in trade you are the least likely to get scammed on TFT. Is the safest place to be by a long shot.
Something a TFT mod would say.
Mile. I am
very
not
rare
partnered
when you
with
do
them
get
or anything like that.
Insider trading.
It is way, way safer there. I'm not at all still advocating. I think this whole culling thing is bullshit, and I agree with everything else. I'm just saying the whole but I could get scammed from Discord thing. It is the safest place to do any trade. It's not that no scams exist, but they've actually gone out of their way to make sure that if people scam, they get booted, they get removed, they lose all of their vouchers and everything. It
does actually get investigated and it does get dealt with. Whereas in game, when you're reporting someone, it's being pushed. Yeah.
It is still bullshit that we have to go there. Culling shouldn't be a thing. On board with all of that stuff. I'm just saying, the safety or scam aspect of that's fear mongering. It's not real.
Sounds like something a scammer would say.
All right. Assuming that is there a rate at which it would be fine? Is there a rate at which the average? No, not scamming, but the MF culling thing. From what I gather from what you're saying is that the difference between you getting in an MF color on a special touched monster and not getting one is too big. Is there a margin where you say if it's 50% more, then I'd be fine with it because I'd be happy with that trade-off, getting into the TFT and taking the time to get the color, which may take half a minute or a minute and waiting for them to be in your map. Is there any sort of percentage of more rewards where you're fine with it, or you think in general it shouldn't be a thing?
It should not exist, in my opinion, at all. Originally, you should, for instance, if you're killing one of the guard-touched mobs, right, you should originally have that chance for that big loot explosion, right? You shouldn't have to rely on other people having to come in to force the big-ass loot explosions initially.
So it basically should generate the loot that it will drop before you start independent from who kills it.
The difficulty of the encounter should dictate the rewards. If the encounter is difficult and time-consuming, it should be rewarding. That's currently not the case.
It's the other way around. It takes long and it's not rewarding.
I don't know what the solution is, by the way. I have no idea what the solution is, but I do know that I don't want Magic Find taken away. I want to be able to do my rarity and quantity farming. I really like that. But I want to be able to do it the old way. I don't want to be doing this. I'm not going to make a rarity color. That's not a thing. Even as the person doing that, even though it makes tons of money, I don't want to be just sitting on TFT and just waiting for people to message me to come in and kill one mob. I'm not doing that. That's not fun. I don't know what the solution is.
You just want to choose, get your loot, and be done with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably have to make one eventually, because if not, I won't be able to accomplish as much, considering the reduction in drops has been, to a degree, eaten up by this sort of change. So, the over-the-board quantity reduction for a lot of mechanics and a lot of things, a lot of it's been absorbed into things like this. So the amount of currency I would normally get and drops I normally get, I now am forced to get it in elsewhere. So I have to now go make a fucking Slayer so I get 20% cull things.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking.
I'd be missing drops.
That's why I'm asking whether you guys would be fine with any sort of implementation where you get more drops out of the special touched monsters if you get someone in, because from what I gather is the biggest problem that people have with it is not the fact that that stuff exists, but because it feels as if like all the loot that we got before got removed and instead injected into these mechanics rather than like that being just an icing on top, right? It feels like mandatory to do that sort of stuff now in order to get the same loot as you were getting before. Like basically the game rewards seem to be balanced around you getting in someone with that cull. And that's where it feels
very
bad.
underwhelming now.
Yeah, if it was just something that was on top and we'd still be getting all the other generous loot, then
and they've basically taken half my loot and given me a chore to get it back. That's what they've done. And that feels kind of shit. But
feels more like 90%.
Yes.
Than half.
Definitely for currency drops, it's like top end currency drops without question. It's more substantial. Also, like just even like the people talk about the currency is one thing. The rate of these quantity differentials extend to all the other touch ones, and it's substantial for things like Aberrath. You kill Aberrath touch, you get 4 maps. You kill Aberrath touch on a color, you're getting 20 plus maps. Like it's a difference in soul itself, and that's actually monumental for a lot of things. So it's not just about the currency. Like the same thing extends for if you see a Katava touch that has the fucking jewel mod, I get 6 jewels if I kill it. If I go into color, I get 40. Like it's a substantial difference to where it's now it's not just not just losing 1 divine. I'm losing the chance of getting stuff in SSF, if you want to talk from that perspective, that is like a massive loss. Yeah. Like losing 15, 20 maps on something, that could be the difference of me like dropping back down a tier or just like running dry in a pool. Like that's massive. Massive.
I had it twice whereby I killed one of those rats and the one dropped, I think, it was an entire inventory of jewels, right? And then the other one was an entire inventory of maps. Yep. And I was still like really surprised when it happened. I was like, why doesn't this always happen? Why, like originally, why do you only get 4 jewels or 4 maps or like a very minuscule amount of currency? And then all of a sudden from a random mob that you can't even basically tell why it happened. Your whole screen just fills up all of a sudden. Boom.
Yeah. But for someone like us, Catmaster will probably, if you're not making one, you're probably going to be missing out on not just getting a divine here and there, but also just the substantial loot that is, because you probably find a touch on average every 15, 20 maps maybe. And it might fit the right combination of them, especially since they have different,
No, I mean, like even something as basic as like fractured items, it may be worth it, like you said. If it's 100%. The difference between getting like 4 fractured items or 20.
Oh yeah, that because fractured ones, especially for empowering. Also, empowering minions, unfortunately, doesn't have a 100% drop rate of fracturing items. It's currently roughly a 50, which is in itself disappointing. But if you do see an empowered one, I'm gonna for sure hop to call it if I have the character up and running because
the Shaper mod, your spells are supported by item rarity.
Yeah, if you're not running that,
you're useful this league.
Yeah, you're
absolutely pog.
But it's hard. It's hard to get that like on a what are its tags as a gem tag, right? That it?
Oh, let me check. I don't even know.
Does it have tags?
I'll just set it up and use my reforged prefix keeping suffix, and I'll make a nice one.
Yeah, it's a gem tag suffix.
Yeah. So that's gonna be you're not gonna use faceted fossils to get those. You're just gonna be fucking alt spamming probably.
Yeah.
Or just throwing out essences and praying. But yeah, it feels a little rough, man. That's even a more prevalent one we didn't bring up, but that's like not using that on your body armor is a huge miss currently.
Yep. That's all I have in my real character because it's not a magic find character. I have a chest with item rarity support and cull in that. And then a gold flask, and now I drop loot again.
Yep.
So you're effectively only running a 4 link for damage then?
Well, I happen to be playing Corrupting Fever. So it's my tornado shot that's in the bow, and then I bought Slayer cull jewels to make sure that my tornado shot would cull to get the kill on the important mobs.
Oh, right.
Yep. And so now it's supported by item rarity, and all the rares die from the tornado shot cull, not the Corrupting Fever, because I got a big 20% gap. That's how I made that happen.
What a meme.
Smart man.
You got to be careful that you don't scale your corrupting fever damage too much. So you can't call it in the time it takes from 20% to 0.
I don't think, as someone who's played CF, that number I don't think exists currently.
I think I could in trade. I could. It would be a lot of investment.
I have that
not
double
not a
corrupted
reasonable
Dialians,
amount.
but yeah, level 5 awakened power, you know.
Yeah, like those sort of things. Level 5 awakened powers and stuff, and +6 amulets, which can exist now. Like things like that. I could do it.
Can't actually. Did you know that you can't? You can't get the simplex for the +3/3. That's what you're talking about.
Wait, really? Why not?
Because these assholes have made it so the number goes to 2.4 and rounds down, instead of going to 2.5 and rounds up. They purposely made it so you can't get a 3 instead of the 2. I thought it was that's how
you only get 2 and 2.
Yes, even with the simplex.
So 4 then.
I was so excited to see those in trade, and I was like, why? And then I found out that they've already been tested and doesn't work, and I was like, why would they not give? That's like such a jackpot scenario. Why would they remove that from the opportunity? But I guess they just
paper hands.
They kicked them when they were down. I don't know.
All right, still woken power +4 amulet with dot multi doubled. Like I could get the damage up that high. Why would you? That's so much investment to get. Nah, it's not happening.
I think the MF color meta problem that we perceive is also aggravated by the switch of Exalts and Divines. You already brought it up a little bit earlier, Lighty, and I said we're going to talk about it in depth. I know we didn't talk about it at all yet, but let's quickly talk about it right now. How do you perceive the economic switch between the Exalts and the Divine Orbs? And do you think that is part of the problem, that you just feel there's not enough avenues to get Divine Orbs that you need in order to use enough metacraft?
I haven't had too much of a problem in SSF. It's just that previously I needed just Exalteds, and now I need Exalteds and Divines, and I seem to always be missing one of the two. So it's annoying, but not directly because of Divines. It's because of the change to Divines was, I think, the 7-pronged attack on Divines was way unnecessary. They could have definitely left in a few things there, right? I don't think the Venom recipe need to be removed at all. If you're doing all the other changes, like you could have easily not done one of those many things, but they did them all.
Well, if they wanted to make the vendor recipe weaker for a divine acquisition, they could have introduced shards and have.
That's a very obvious and easy decision to make that they chose.
That would have been a really good fix to us. Yeah.
It would have been something. I mean, as of right now, I'm sitting on 6 divines and 0 exalteds. I'm starved for exalteds because I no longer need exalteds for the crafting and for slamming. I'm slamming the same rate, but it's just exalteds dropped way less than they used to because of all the quantity changes. So. I mean, it's all the same problem for SSF. Honestly, you're missing. They're both incredibly rare. There's not great avenues to get either, and I'm perpetually missing one or the other. When I'm trying to do any endgame high end crafting, so it's it is what it is. But what are you gonna do? I have no perspective on the trade league setting.
I'm curious how the other people perceive it. Betta, how do you perceive the entire change of around divines and exalts?
Well, this is how do I say it? It's a very controversial thing at the moment, should I say? Because on one hand, like majority of the player base is saying that it's probably the worst change in the game, which I do agree with, but at the same time, I do disagree with it at the same time. The reason why I agree with it is because it has created a much bigger shift in the way that the economy works, which is kind of a good thing, but at the same time, it's really shit, especially to acquire decent items with good rolls and that. But I think it's really, really bad too, because what's happened now is majority of the ways that you can acquire, like, for instance, if you're juicing your build up and you're trying to get the perfect numbers and that, you have to invest far more into your gear, and that right. And also what's happened with the economy, I feel like, is everything has skyrocketed in price, right? For instance, like general items. I mean, I used to be able to get general items just to make a bold function, okay, for a couple of chaos. And now, especially because the player base has dropped by such a drastic amount, okay, all of these like fairly good items and these good upgrades that you can get for your build are now skyrocketed through the roof, and some of them are just really, really ridiculous in terms of pricing. So
can you think of any specific examples that you had trying to progress your build?
Well, I haven't had any issues with progressing my build because I went with minions, and like no one's basically playing minions this league, so majority of the stuff has been really, really cheap for me. So yeah, it's a bit
fair.
But majority of like other builds, for instance, with Righteous Fire, right? Last league, it was super expensive it was super cheap to progress your build, right? Like you could get the majority of the gear for fairly cheap, and you wouldn't actually struggle to acquire your items. Whereas this league, some of the prices are just crazy, man. And the gear isn't perfect or anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, from what I've gathered, is like there's a lot fewer uniques, and then there's also fewer good items made because of the lot of harvest crafting power being reduced and all that. And then on the other hand, like those changes alone already make decent usable items in your build on average higher value. And then on the other side, they've done these punctual, like really big injections of currency through the MF color meta, where, you know, here or there's like 4 divines coming into the economy, and 4 divines here, 4 divines there, and it seems to have caused
back.
Yeah.
Just falling back on how bad the economy has actually become, right? So week 1, Aegis Aurora is a really good example here. Okay, typically it is maybe like 5 to 9 exalts. Okay, this league, it is still sitting at currently 16 to 18 divines, which is double what it used to be, because now it's an actual chase item as well, because of how harvest has been changed, and that's so people can't specifically rely on items that they want to craft. And now instead, everyone's falling back on using Aegis because it's such an overpowered unique, and basically can somewhat make your build kind of immortal, I guess you can say. It depends on how you build around it.
It's a very strong defensive power spike, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest chase unique, aside from Headhunter and Mage Blood shenanigans, obviously.
A lot of these uniques are overpriced. A lot because the MF groups don't exist as well.
That's true, yes. So there's far fewer of them being introduced into the market. And also, as I said, with the player base being lower, I mean, the amounts that are realistically available when people are playing is very, very low now.
Well, I mean, that goes both ways. Both of those changes go both ways. Like, if there's fewer generated by the MF groups, that means, like, if some random Andy finds one, it's also worth more. So that goes both ways. In the same way, if there's fewer people playing, yeah, there's fewer supply, but there's also, like, lower demand. So that goes both ways. But I think what really is the big problem there is that your average Joe doesn't get more currency, but the tendency is towards less currency. You get fewer divines, fewer exalts, and it's harder to build up wealth unless you're leaning into the MF color thing. So, yeah. It just seems like the price of Aegis specifically that you brought up, right? Like, between it being 8 to 10 exalts previously and now being 16 to 20 divines, it just is not only like half as obtainable, but it's like even more.
Realistically, by week 2, week 3, especially week 3, Aegis would drop down to like 1 exalt, you know, because there was just so many available. Whereas now it's still at 16 divines because like there isn't that many available at all.
So that's an extreme example, but it goes all the way down to like very, very small uniques, like just for instance,
Gold Rim.
A gold rim.
I was just using Aegis as it's the most common.
Yeah, and like a Stampede boots that used to be 1C are now 55 chaos, and so it like almost propagates through the entire market, that these groups have disappeared and all the other changes, to the point where, like, if you're the kind of player who only made 100 chaos to put together a build, you suddenly can't do like 80-90% of the builds you had access to before.
Well, it depends. It depends mostly on where you were making that currency. If you were making that currency from selling uniques that you dropped, then again, it goes both ways. Like, those prices being more stable also means a more reliable stream of income if you're farming uniques.
Yep.
Yeah, but the people who only had 100 chaos to do something, they weren't farming anything. They didn't have a strategy, or you'd have more than that. So, like,
now they can only buy 1 item instead of like 4 items.
Yeah. So it does propagate through everything. Also, like, a lot of the more casual players, at least from my chat that I've been watching, have been excited early because they're getting more currency than they used to, which is absolutely on point. You've got more raw currency in trade if you're like a casual, slower player than you had in the past for the same amount of progression you've done, until they go to buy something and realize that they have less buying power than they used to have. They're like, oh, I've got nearly twice as much currency. And then they're like, oh no, all the items cost 9 times as much as they used to, and I've only got twice as much currency. And then they're like, oh, I'm actually poorer than I've ever been, even though I have more currency in my stash tab than I've ever had.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds rough. It's hard to put a finger on it for me, like going from softcore trade last league to playing hardcore solo self-on and also playing as little as I do. I wouldn't know whether I make twice as much currency or I wouldn't know any like number for the factor.
This league for me has been my richest league start out of all of them, which is very, very strange. And I keep on telling my chat that I can't believe that I'm actually making so much currency. It's very strange. Whereas in previous leagues, I mean, to put this into perspective, right? Before I started content creation and streaming, I used to have like at maximum 2 exalts, maybe 3 exalts in softcore trade. And I would spend like an exalt on my board and I'd be like, holy shit, dude, like this board's popping off, you know, I spent so much currency and that. Whereas like now, my entire perspective has changed, right? Like now, after putting some knowledge into how to basically make money off of things and having a basic understanding of the general value of items, I'm now able to acquire currency a lot quicker, even though I refuse to spend all of it on my build, because realistically for my build guides, I want to keep it under like 15 divines at least, and not push that to like 50, 60, 70 divines, because for me, that's unrealistic to the majority of the player base. Even just maybe 5 divines is actually probably unrealistic to the majority of players, especially casual players. Most people won't even see that amount of currency. Especially now, after all of these crazy changes have taken place, you know, like people are really struggling. But then again, I've also had many people tell me that they have like 100 divines, whereas previous leagues, by week 3, realistically, they'll have like 2 exalts, maybe if they were lucky. And that's playing 3 hours a day also, which is pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. You do want to, if you're making build guides, you always want to have like a sort of high investment option for the build, but you want to make sure that it also works at low investment and that people understand, hey, I don't need to make like 15, 20, 300 divines in order to play this build.
Exactly so. Yeah. I always make sure to start it off with a very bare basic and then move it up, you know, to like a medium tier. And then that's where I normally stop playing the build. But then what I do is I juice it up in part of building with awakened gems and, you know, like crazy gear in case someone's like, yo, you know, I'm really loving this build. I want to take it further, dude. And then they at least have that basis there available to them. And of course, I mean, my Discord's always open for anyone to come by and ask for help. I'm always willing to help anyone. I think that's what I'm most well known for with my community, is to just help people straight off the bat.
All right, like one last big talking point that we haven't touched on is Eldritch Exalted Orbs, Chaos Orbs, and Orbs of Annulment are going to be more common and available in lower area levels. Good? Yeah.
I think this is huge for crafting. Honestly, I do.
I think we could all agree this is generally a positive change. I'm looking forward to being able to do more of that sort of crafting.
Same.
Yep. I want more than twice the amount we're currently getting so that people can actually use them.
That would be awesome.
Agreed. I am so fucking starved on annulls. It is painful.
Yep.
Painful. I saw someone in chat saying, I've never seen me so quiet. I was resisting the urge when you were talking about being so nice people in Discord and accommodating and making build guides. I'm just resisting the urge to just be like, I hate making build guides. I think, if you're in trade and you're too poor, you should quit the game. You should just not play. It's, I'm just every fiber of my body. It's just going just get a mage blood loser, all that stuff. It's just coming to the surface.
I understand your points of view, yeah.
I don't think even I understand my point of view.
I take an opposite approach to Betta with build guides. I make build guides to where they need to be to feel good. And then if people are like, I've only got this much money, I'm super willing to help. But what I'm super willing to help with is teaching you how to make more money. Not trying to accommodate the build to your budget.
Listen, if you give a mouse a cookie, these degenerates will come for you and you're in the sleep. I have made one build guide in the past year and a half, and that was what a fucking mistake because so many people looked at it, and I get messages every day. Oh, what about this thing? I've spent 4 fucking days making it. Look at the goddamn video. It's like, what's happening here? I even wrote it down as a Google document. If there's a question, I'll add it. Don't talk to me. Why are you even speaking to me? Everything's in the information's there. I'm so against POB and build guides in general. I think if you're just too dumb to figure it out, you should go play Torchlight 1. This is the wrong game for you at that point.
That's a very extreme take, crazy. But it's good to have that because that drives people to other people who are more willing to explain basic mechanics in the video game. There's always going to be a very, very strong niche for that sort of content where people are patient enough to explain the basics to new player.
I don't mind answering questions, but if it's written down and the video is 10 minutes long and it covers everything about CF you could ever want for a wander, and it's there's a 6-page Google document that's tagged with it. If you can't read, if you're not a native English speaker, I understand. But I hear these people in Discord
talking to Pox about that exact same thing because Pox was actually talking about
he set himself up for the worst time in the world.
How he started making build guides for that exact reason because he wanted to prevent people from coming into his streams and asking questions. So he was I'm going to put out the videos that answer the questions so that people don't have to come into my streams to ask the questions. And the more build guides, the more explanatory guides he put out, the more people came into his chats and asked him questions about how the build and the game works. So yeah,
majority of the people never watch the entire video. I've seen this from the analytics. Majority of people will watch 2 or 3 minutes, just skipping through the video very vaguely, ignoring all of the actual important information that they should
where's
be
the POB? Just let me use
feeding
it.
themselves with, right? Yeah, they just immediately throw up the POB, start leveling the character, and then a day or 2 later, they come to you and it's yo, dude, this is shit. Why isn't it working? It's did you watch the entire video? Do you actually know how the build is functioning? And then they're no. So how does it actually work? It's dude, come on, man.
Those people, they don't get to have fun. Those are the people that sign their life away in a float lock mortgage and lose their house in 2 weeks. That's if you can't read, then you shouldn't be playing a game that's half reading, first off. And especially don't come to me asking goddamn questions. So I'm just going to type them to you, and you're not going to be able to read that answer anyway. So it's what the fuck's the point of all this shit?
Yeah. Lighty with the elitist takes. Raising the barrier of entry.
Read? Why is reading? I can't tell you how many games I play where people ask me questions and the information in the goddamn tutorial that they just blow past. You don't deserve to know the information if you didn't take 2 seconds to do the tutorial.
Right. So chat has drawn our attention to it. Apparently, PC
Patch is
servers
coming up.
are restarting in 30 minutes. So by the looks of it, end of the week is already happening now. The 3.
Well, it's the end of the work week for
19.1.
GGG, so it's Wednesday.
That's true.
It's Thursday now.
Our Wednesday is their Thursday morning, right?
Yeah, it's Thursday now, yeah.
They have like a 3-day work week. What is it? 2.5?
It's Thursday now.
Yeah, but
it's a 3-day weekend.
Oh, okay. Isn't that what they normally do?
That's what I like to do.
The nothing patch is coming. I think there's at least like 2 substantial changes here. Like, first of all,
they sound substantial. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's true. That is.
I think if anything was proven in recent times, what is displayed to us and the reality tend not to line up in this the situation.
That's true.
So
I mean, we don't know. There might be another like super big change happening with this patch that they just didn't feel the need to talk about because they didn't think
as
it was
substantial as nearby. Yeah. Well, I hope that annuls drop like the rate in which regals drop, which is also quite low this league. But like seeing like, I mean, I don't understand what their obsessive aversion is to having crafting currency accessible in a game that they so much want to have the close your eyes and slam mentality being like part of it. I feel like an exalted should be much more accessible just from a base drop perspective.
Yeah.
If like that's the direction
I haven't had
go,
an exalt yet. I have a divine.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just like if slamming, because all an annul is a reverse slam, right? It's very much the same flavor as an exalted. Like to me, that being not very accessible currency from a drop perspective seems quite unfortunate, considering
well, with annuls, at least you can do harbingers and get some annul shards and work towards.
Harbinger on all league annul shards are not that common, unfortunately. They're a little bit rare.
Yeah, they're
on the rare side.
They're about as rare as exalt shards, though. I'd say.
Yeah.
I think I get like 30 annuls a day.
30 annuls a day in no dimension.
I'm also doing Gilded Harbinger.
Well,
Harbinger spec.
Sure. It's a hard thing to keep up. I'll give you that.
I'm gonna check how many I have now.
I have 0. Nice. Choose the last one. 2 seconds.
It's a nice traded advantage. I can just keep running Gilded Scarabs.
I'm sitting on 2 full annuls and 12 shards versus 5 exalt shards and 0 full exalt.
So. Mr. Rich, Mr. Moneybags here.
Working on it. But I'm always depleting all my alterations because the bone helmet will never roll +2 all minion gems. 25 weight is a bitch.
The weighting is a bit.
I've managed to hit +2 on my bone helmet in 400 alterations, I think. Yeah, and now I'm currently going to be trying out another one and then another one again. So then I at least have 3 base off from.
Is alteration crafting is probably not the right way to hit it, right? It's probably like some weird prime resonator combo that you want to hit to exclude like other mods.
Probably. A 4-socket resonator is the easiest way, but the most expensive, obviously. And realistically, in Solar Soft, having the 4-socket resonators and that is going to take you quite a while to farm up. And I mean,
think
even
the fossils are harder to get than the
League,
4-socket resonators.
Very expensive.
But yeah.
If it's passive, yes. If it's passive, yeah, you're fucked.
But I feel like alt spamming in Trade League is probably the quickest way to acquire it, because that way you can at least then regal, slam, and hope that you can then make it so that prefixes cannot be changed, and then you can reforge with harvest, and then hope on landing some decent suffixes, and then just pretty much craft on life. That's kind of what I'm going to aim for.
Wait, hope was used 3 times in that sentence. Feels about path, man.
Yeah, speaking of hope, looking to round things up, what are you guys' hopes for 3.20? As we're likely not going to see a whole lot of changes to 3.19 still, but what are some of the big things that you'd like to see addressed in 3.20? Which, I mean, it's going to be the Christmas League. If we get some things that we really want, then any league, then
we're going to get coal for Christmas. That's what we're going to get.
What? Coal for Christmas?
Yeah, coal in our stockings. That's it. They don't have that in Germany? Sorry, what is it? Sinterklaas? Black Peter, what do they use in the Netherlands?
Yeah, Sinterklaas is Netherlands. We have Sankt Nicolaas, I think, for 6th of
he
December.
comes and gives all the kids stroopwafels, right? That's what they do.
Yeah, stroopwafels. Oh, good shit, dude. Oh, don't remind me. I haven't had a stroopwafel in ages.
Man, the way you said
Good
it
shit.
sounds so good.
The
Sounds
way
better
I said it.
That sweet German accent. Oh, unrelated, semi-related, because you're also a bald man. How does it feel that we were both insulted as being bald men?
Wait, what?
These
No,
brief-
no. We're not going
Nah,
to do that.
dude. No. Steering
I-
the other direction.
I
Stick
don't think
together,
there was like
bald
the.
men.
Yeah, I do want to express my solidarity as a bald man with Chris, and I don't
Thank
think
you.
that being attacked for your baldness is anything that should be a thing. But I
Agreed.
also think that was just like I think that those were just two separate insults that was not related.
Heavily uncalled
I
for,
think
in my opinion.
whoever
man.
made that statement, I don't remember, but made the said specifically the R word.
I don't think I
and
remember either
The
who
bald
made the
word.
statement.
They were not
that's not important.
correlated.
Hate the player, don't hate the game. Or
Bald has built-in
vice versa.
blinding
Wait.
defense.
Hate
Exactly.
the game, don't hate the player.
Did the conversation
man.
break? I heard some audio clicking, and I have to look at the Discord. Are people still there? Yeah, everyone's still there.
We're good. Yeah.
Good. So, hopes for 3.20. I'll go first because, then I can tell you guys what kind of answer I'm looking for, right? I'll give you a little bit of it. So, what I was really hoping for when they didn't do any balance changes for 3.18 was I was like giving in to some sort of hope, some illusions that we're going to get big sweeping balance changes for 3.19, like sort of a whole revamp of the skill horizon of the landscape of skills, like bring up things that are more outdated and low in damage and bring down things that are more modern and feel good. And I'd really like to see people playing with Frostblades again. Some people playing with Shock Nova, or I guess Shock Nova is being used
great.
with the new
How
lightning
dare you.
skills. But yeah, just like give a buff
Conversion
to
trap.
all those skills that feel pretty bad, and also maybe
Conversion trap.
do something that non-damage over time builds, non-damage via proxy builds feel on par, because it's felt for the last 2 or 3 years, Path of Exile, it's so problematic to stand still. So if you're not playing anything that deals damage while you're moving around, you feel left out. Like, sure, in trade, you can compensate by being so powerful that you can kill things before they can react, even if you need to stand still to deliver your full damage. But I feel for a lot of like races and solo self-found, you're really looking to do any damage over time, really, because it allows you to mechanically outplay while you're doing the damage. So those are two things I'd like to see addressed. A, the landscape of skills in general, and B, like dot versus hit based. Maybe we could get something that only works for hit based builds to make them slightly better, give them a little bit of an edge. I don't know. What is it for you? Better go first. I know you had some pog forehead take on this.
So I will definitely agree with you in terms of these skill
think you're
gems.
muted, or is it me? Did my audio crash? Oh, that's why I didn't hear you guys. My microphone was just
I haven't
off.
been recording
My
this whole
headphones.
time.
No, we're actually recording. I was just my headphones went out of battery during the podcast earlier, and then I plugged them in, and somehow my cable doesn't work anymore, so they switch off all the time.
Fair enough.
Shit.
So I'm going to second with you in terms of the skill gems. They definitely do need to bring back the older ones, especially in terms of melee and that. I feel like they are heavily underrated at the moment, especially for instance, right, you can go and take Inquisitor Ascendancy now with basically any skill gem in the game and turn it into a bolt, okay? And I feel like that shouldn't be possible, right? That should be possible with any of the ascendancies for any of the skill gems, right? Because PoE is based around typically you select what skill you want to play and your ascendancy, and then you go on about it. Whereas at the moment, I feel like it's heavily related to you have to choose a specific ascendancy with a specific set of skill gems and auras and that in order for it to actually feel comfortable. Yes, obviously, all of the skill gems are usable, okay? But to a very certain extent, right? I mean, like some of them will be usable for like until the end of white maps or yellow maps. Even if you're heavily investing into your build, I mean, some of them are heavily underrated at the moment. So in terms of 3.20, I'm really, really hopeful that they will attend to majority of the skill gems which are being underused. And then the second thing that I'm looking forward to in 3.20 is obviously them being a lot more transparent with the community instead of hiding things and us having to find out on league launch, creating the entire shitfest, I guess you can call it, which has occurred, and overall just keeping the community positive and not having so much negativity going around, which I really do think was uncalled for. Yes, I do understand people were upset with the changes and everything, but in my opinion, I don't think that everyone should have like blown it out of proportion how they did. But obviously, just my opinion on how things went down. But that's what I'm looking forward to, though.
Yeah, I will agree that like a lot of communication could have done in such a way that people would have feel less of a feeling of being betrayed or being robbed of what they wanted to do in the league. Just like Balor said, like if we knew beforehand, we could have planned accordingly, and there's still tons of things that we can do that are fun.
I mean, people took days of work off, right? Which is initially there for sick leave and stuff. Okay, and I know multiple people who did this. And then the league launch comes out and it's like they have everything planned. It's going to be so much fun. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, wait, like nothing's dropping. We can't acquire certain things. And then this whole outrage occurred as well, which ruined the player experience. Obviously, it didn't ruin it for me because I remain optimistic no matter what they're going to do. Yes, I am high on copium.
Absolutely. All right, Lighty, do you have any specific gripes that you haven't brought up yet?
My really only thing I hope is that they really don't waste any more integral components of this game's history on mechanics poorly developed like this. Like Calandra has been in the game's lore for 10 years, and it's been one of the most key component aspects of it.
Yeah, it's been brought up.
The fact that there's no boss fight, and it's basically just like her involvement's non-existent in this league, essentially. It's
in
just
flavor
such a
alone,
fucking
basically.
shame. I mean, the fact that we did Blight, there was a boss to be slated in that was data mined, never happened. We have the strange voice from Delirium, never got to actually engage with that dude. Calandra's introduced, and she's just a big bird with tits that fucks and flies off after 2 seconds. Like, that's such a waste for me. I mean, you have all these people in the game that I'd love to see integrated. They did like a really good job with some of the cool lore bosses, like in Legion. We got to see them fight in like the Timeless War. They have the capabilities of doing that. So I just love to see like these really cool boss fights from past history be integrated. Like, there's so many that they could do, that they could have done. I just wish
would have been awesome to fight Calandra, man.
I mean, imagine fighting Calandra and she makes like a copy of your character you have to fight, or she twins herself, or she inverts your controls. Like, there's so many things that could have happened that none of it did. So. None of it. I just don't like. I wish if they're gonna rush out a league and like do a shit mechanic that's gonna receive no real attention, do it with like Einhar's like intern or something. Do it with one of Tane's third assistants. Don't use fucking Calandra. Like, such a waste. Such a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad that Calandra's just a bird lady that yells at you.
And then she does nothing. There's not even a lot of dialogue. Like, there's nothing.
There's like 3 lines that she yells at you, and then she just fucks off, and that's it.
I would love. I'd love to see sequels. I think there's like Path is way too full of stuff already, and there's so much things they could just do, like Harbinger 2. Bestiary too. Like, there's so many things that can do. And I would love to just see continuations of these already existing characters. Like, people love Einhar. People love like Einhar as a character. There could easily be a Bestiary too. with just 4 new big beast bosses, like a giant fucking T-Rex you fight or some shit, and he drops T-Rex armor. Like, people would eat that shit up. Like, it's not difficult. The framework's already there. Because then you don't have to make new assets for NPCs. The voice lines are there. You already got the guy in Retainer who does the voice. Like, it seems like it's a no-brainer to be doing these cool continuations of already beloved stories. So I'd love to see things like that.
Aspect of the dinosaur.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
the Stegosaurus, the Brontosaurus, the T-Rex, the Velociraptor. Come on, it'd be so sick.
You
get
gain
to fight
short
skeletal.
arms.
You can get Delve involved. You could fight like fucking skeletal, like resurrected, delved up fossils. Like there's so many things you could do, especially because we have the memories, right? We have all the memory things. We even talk about those, but those are like supposed to be like the greatest hits of these people when they're living life in the Atlas. We know that we're doing things, so we could see more of that shit.
Yeah, no, that's really, I really agree with the first part that you brought up. Just don't burn any like meaningful lore characters to make a mediocre league less mediocre, but use them to really enhance like the top content. Like Legion was an insanely cool league, and the way that the Legion bosses have been done, I feel like that did the lore characters justice to some degree. But the way that's been with Calandra, I sadly don't feel the same way. Outside of those things brought up, Balor, do you have anything that you're like longing to see in 320? Maybe some specific copium in regards to the juiced content?
I'm gonna stand on the other side of what Betta said, because I feel if anything, we understated how bad these changes were. And we probably should have kicked up more of a fuss than we did. I think all of the negativity was
up a fuss. A gentle.
I think all of them, so we should have politely and respectfully made more noise than we did. But for me,
in a respectful manner.
Yeah, that's very important. But for me, and I'm not speaking for anyone except myself, before anybody gets angry at me in the YouTube video comments, no one but myself. I've had at least 50% of the enjoyment of this game taken away overnight. The game is, for a player like me, in the worst state it's been in since I started playing. Literally in the last 9 years. The base game, not the league, the base game is in the worst state I've ever had. It is half the fun it's ever been in the past. I'm still playing it because half of PoE's fun is still better than most other games in existence. So I am still out here trying to have a good time, and I am still playing the game, and I will still be playing for a while. But it's still a really big step back for me to be having half the fun I've ever had. I just want my fun back. I just want my juice back. I don't necessarily want it to be exactly like it was. Like I understand that a 10,000% rarity and quantity bonus on a league mechanic is probably excessive, and it makes things hard to balance in the future, etc. I don't want everything back the way it was. What I do want is to actually be rewarded for adding mobs into my map again. I don't want to take all of the time to roll really well juiced maps, find all of the scarabs, buy all of the sextants, collect everything to really juice my map up, and then make less money per hour by orders of magnitude than people just Alken going. That doesn't feel right. I'm not rewarded for killing more mobs. That's not right. I want it back. I want to be rewarded for putting more mobs into my map and making my map harder.
Your Chayula breach is looking kind of juicy there in the background, though.
Yeah, but everything I'm doing there, my profit is half of Alken go per hour. If I just run... by the way, if anyone wants an Alken Go strategy, the best one I've seen so far, at least for softcore trade, is the one Firegrass put out in a video just a day or two ago. That Alken Go really strategy makes twice what my Super Juice strategy makes, where I'm using like 4 expensive sextants and gilded scarabs, and in some case polished scarabs and everything. You make twice as much just Alken going with that strategy, which is ridiculous. So that's all I want back. I just want the ability to add mobs to my map and have it actually be rewarding. I don't want to lose money by trying to kill monsters.
Classic
On the
entitled
juice
opinion.
back, man.
Classic entitled opinion.
Yeah, imagine actually trying to get a return on your investment. Absolutely disgusting
Just scamming
expectation.
TFT like the rest of us. Come on. Happens every minute. Every minute, one person gets scammed in TFT. Confirmed by BalorMage.
Confirmed.
Slap it on the back of your newspaper.
Yeah, sounds good. So that about sums it up. Do you guys want to quickly give us a closing statement? Tell the people where they can find you and what they can expect from you in terms of content this league. Let's start with Betta again. Betta, what are your plans for the league? Are you still going to min-max that Poison SRS character, or do you already have plans for a future one coming up?
So yeah, basically, at this very moment, I plan on putting out the build guard for the Poison Summon Raging Spirits, of course. That should be out pretty soon. And then because I'm enjoying the build so much and because the damage is so insane, like I'm really, really enjoying it. I am considering to further invest in the build and to really, really juice it up. But at the same time, I do have an eye on trying out Poison Skeletons, maybe. To see how
another
viable
poison
that
summoner.
might be. Yeah. Just to see if it will actually work. Other than that, I'm probably going to be making a Lightning Conduit build then with Milner. The only problem is scaling the shock damage and everything, of course. But otherwise, all that I do is you guys can catch me over on my YouTube channel where I live stream pretty much every single day. And yeah, I put out update videos on the build that I play. And other than that, it's just the build guards. And in the future, I do plan to release other videos and that. But for now, I'm focusing more on the consistency of streaming than the quantity of videos.
Can be a good move to get into the groove of things and to get better at that narration and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, I kind of got it right now, I guess you can say.
It worked pretty well. I mean, coming on to the podcast for the first time, you seem to have a good time and not too worried about how you appear. You taking the space and opening the space up to people, so it worked pretty well.
I've had an absolute
and as for the build
man.
thing, actually, that's what I wanted to say. If the SRS works as well as it's, as I've seen on your stream, I think the skeletons, if anything, should work better than the SRS because the fire damage from the SRS doesn't poison at all. Like the post conversion.
The only problem with
the skeletons don't have any
is
innate conversion, but they just have their base physical. They'll probably poison a lot better than the SRS.
The thing with SRS, right, is that their hit rate is really, really fast.
Wait, did
I
my
can
headphones
ramp
switch
them
off
up
again?
really quick.
I guess I'm not hearing people. Wow. Yeah. This is my cable is wrecked.
Cool beans.
Cool beans. So what are you doing still for the rest of the league, Lighty?
Well, I'm playing RF currently, and it's like,
it's hard to play any other build after you play.
Well, there's no I've looked at every build this league that I've seen people playing that are respectable players, and there's no breakaway build that if I don't play it this league I'm going to miss it. I felt that with the Hate Forge builds. I felt that with Forbidden Right totems, maybe even the Cold SST. There's nothing in this league where I'm if I don't play this is going to get nerfed. I haven't got that feeling or seen anything that represents that. So I'm not too worried about missing it. The Conduit looks fine. Still a fucking 2-stage skill, so it'll never be amazing in my eyes, right? But I'll probably play a Conduit build just because I've been playing RF, and I wanted to probably min-max that and probably go do 100. I don't know if I want to go for 100 because it just kind of feels really shit to grind to 100 with Arch Nemesis. There's so many just silver bullets roaming the streets of maps that just go down the bad alley, hit an executioner, and now I just can't regen, and it feels kind of shit. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I definitely just am focusing on Trial Master. That's my goal, I guess, is doing Trial Master. If by the grace of the innocence and sin, and the magnificent ass of innocence, I can get a Hate Forge, I'll definitely do that. But most likely, if I could somehow get myself the Ultimatum Shield, even, I'd love to build something using that thing. Even it's just fun to pronounce. Matsuwaddle's Machination. That's like, it's a fun shield.
Is heavily underrated. That's all I can say.
I think it is. It's also heavily
so
price
good.
manipulated right now in trade.
Yes.
But that also, comes down to just Trial Master's annoying to farm, bad drop rates, and it's just like really tedious to get all the fragments for. So I'd love to play any build with any Trial Master thing, Relic of the Pact even included. Just Trial Master stuff. That's my goal. And then you could find me. Just whatever. Just Google me.
Yeah, the links are in chat below, and of course they will be underneath the video.
Yeah, you could. I guess on Saturday it'll be the new episode of All for One, and if you want to watch that, the longest running Path series to date, baby. Keep it going until I die, which will happen.
What is it going to be? 400 and something now, right?
Episodes?
Yeah.
Or what? Oh, no, it's 100 and. It's 149, 150. I don't know. I've lost track. Too many episodes. It's long.
Lost track too many episodes, man.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll watch episode 100 over again because it's like a hour and a half compilation of like the first 100 episodes. It feels good, man. But maybe we'll see at 200. Yeah, it's a fun watch. Episode 100.
Are you ever going to complete all the uniques in the game, or are they going to keep adding new uniques at a rate where you can't keep up with it?
As of right now, I am acquiring uniques faster than they're being added to the game percentage-wise, every single league. And that I've kept up that pace pretty much since I've started collecting uniques. So as long as that continues, we're okay. But there are every now and then some just atrocious uniques they introduce. Things like the Calandra's ring, that it's just like, if I get it, I get it. No, it's like replica Beta Breath. I'm currently still missing 3 replica items, and it's like some of them are just unconscionably rare, And I also purposely don't take the easy route. I believe there's like a level of ethics to what I've begun. So, even just recently, I just got my first Metamorph unique after 833 Metamorphs, which was, to my knowledge, the long record of anyone going try that is on recorded.
That's crazy.
And when I handed in 8 sets of the cards, I didn't complete the Metamorphs uniques. I still missed one.
What?
Which is like, that insult to injury. So it's like, but there's things like that, like Stasis Prison, the Uber Legion one, that's like ridiculously rare. Ulnatal's Vow is also ridiculously rare. So there's a lot. There's a lot of these holy grails just floating around in the unique space, but I look forward to grinding them all out, and I'm going to be focusing on Trial Master this league. That's my big boy. How about yourself, Baylor?
When you get the fragments, right?
I'm at 3 out of 4 at the moment. I have to just go get the Delve one. It's the one that sucks. That's the big annoying one.
I don't actually have any good plans past finishing my character off and like farming out my headhunter. I'm building meme builds for the rest of the league. I'm starting with
Ignite.
I'm starting with Flame Blast Poison because it was in the trailer. It was one of GGG's builds to do Flame Blast Poison, and I think it's going to be horrible, so I'm going to do it.
Well, I mean, one thing is that build is really good at, and it's probably the only, and if not the only, it's the best build to make use of the new Mark skill.
Yeah.
Is there a harder hitting spell than that one on the top end?
I don't think so, and I'm going to try and do it as a Pathfinder, because Pathfinder prolifts one single poison, which is generally shit. Unless because normally poisons are like a whole bunch of really small poisons that stack to do poison damage. But Flame Blast is going to be one really big poison, so I'm going to try and do it as a Pathfinder and have one big poison that prolifts. Which might actually be functional for clearing at least.
You're gonna run like lesser poison, like a Dendrobait and stuff, or what do you? Or you do the Covenant or whatever.
I haven't decided yet, to be honest. I haven't built the path I'm building for it or anything. I don't even know how I'm converting to Chaos yet. Consuming Ducks is the obvious one, but what I really want to
do. Is
do.
there no alt quality?
Yeah, there's an alt quality, but it only gives you 40%.
Well, ashes.
So
obviously.
I could ashes it.
Yeah.
But that makes it a lot more expensive for a meme. But also that would let me use one of the staffs from the syndicate that gives me like 80% cast speed, which is going to be the hardest problem to deal with is going to be cast speed. I'm going to have to cheat that somehow. So I'm thinking 2 reflected rings with 40% each and 80% on the staff gives me a ton of cast speed, which...
Can you do Val Flame Blast with Hate Forge and Triumvirance?
Oh, that's even more expensive.
But that'll be that max stacks instantly.
Yeah, that's even more expensive. This is a meme.
Yeah, but
This
then
is
doesn't Triumvirate also have
a
increased
meme that
AoE
it will
built into
work.
it? It'll probably be screen wide. That's also has a higher top end, I believe, than regular Flame Blast. So I think it'd be even better. So you should go buy a Hate Forge and buy a 4 property Uber at Zeri Triumvirate. You're welcome. I've solved your build.
Sounds great.
Man, I'm going to have to change to this Alkin Ghost strat so I can make money. Oh, I hate it.
Probably,
I hate it. I really should, though.
You hate to see it, man. Hate to see it.
I mean, I don't mind Alkin Go being profitable, but like
Being
we've
the
said
most
already a
profitable?
couple of times. Yeah, it shouldn't be the most. It should be like the most convenient and still be fairly profitable in comparison. But yeah, investment shouldn't make your maps magically be less worth. You should at least get your investment out and
they're more
then
worth
some.
individually, right? Like I walk out of every map with 150 cows, right? Which sounds great, except it cost me 100 cows to launch the map. And if I did Alkin Go, I'd make 50 cows profit a map, and I would have ran 4 of those maps at the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like per hour, I'm just losing money hand over fist over here trying to invest in my maps.
Yeah. Yeah, rough.
Alkin Go is outweighing the juicing, basically. And that's a really, really bad thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As for my plans, I'm currently still trying to desperately get gear upgrades on my Absolution Guardian. I want to do my lakes. I've done some of the low-level lakes, like I said earlier, so I've started on that, but I still don't feel like super confident on talking about it from my personal subjective point of view, from my personal experience with it in the game. I mean, I still think that I can have an opinion on it, unlike some people on YouTube try to invalidate my opinions by saying that even though, you know, I'm playing SSF and I'm a fairly accomplished player, I only entered red maps in this league. And you know what? It's a fairly reasonable thing to say, right? Like I do think I cannot speak from a point of view of authority on a lot of these issues, but I do think I can have an opinion based on what other people present, like the information we have from other people, right? I think I've been playing Path of Exile for long enough to have an opinion, but I also want to convince those people, so I want to get my first-hand experiences on. And so I've been very careful to not die again. Character already died just before level 90 on the previous iteration, and then I just remade the character. And slow but steady is the device, or the motto for this league, because there's not going to be a gauntlet, and I'm probably going to skip BPL this time around and just going to focus on my personal progression. Not sure about the BPL. I might still play BPL because that's always a welcome change of pace, and it's only like 4 days, so it's definitely fun. But yeah, might also skip it. I think the people who are running the BPL already confirmed that there's definitely going to be a BPL. Yes. And I believe it's 23rd of September is when it starts. But I probably would recommend you all go to the Badger Private League thing, right? It says here on the BPL_POE Twitter, BPL 9 coming September 23rd. So my memory did do me a good service here, and it was 100% accurate. September 23rd, that's in pretty much exactly 2 weeks. So, yeah, if you're interested in the Badger Private League number 9 that is going to take place still in this league in 3.19, make sure you follow the Twitter so you don't miss the tweet when they do the signups, because this event is always very limited. There's only a limited amount of spots. And typically, whenever I play the event, people come into the stream and ask whether they can join. And then I'm always disappointed having to tell people that, no, you should have signed up beforehand. You need to sign up.
What's the league going to be? The Badger one?
Badger Private League?
It's is there like a theme or?
Well, we don't have the details yet.
Yeah, we didn't have any like detailed announcement about it yet, but historically they're always doing like a randomized team-based competition event. So you sign up.
Chat was saying Gucci Hobo, and it's funny because myself and the other people on our team, like Manny and Leggy and Ironwild, we were actually planning on doing a Gucci Hobo private league for like a charity event this year. That'd be funny
this year or this league still?
What? What'd you say?
You said this year, but you mean this league still?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like in a month, probably. Well, we'll be emailing with Chris back and forth. I'll let you know when everything's.
Yeah, let me know. I'll gladly promote that. I'm always a fan of the Gucci.
There'll be some sort of charity component. We've done charities with the Able Gamers Foundation. We've raised like upwards of $10,000 for them.
That's awesome.
It's like a disability for like tools for people with disabilities to play games, etc. We were thinking, and then Manny mentioned we want to do a Gucci Hobo event, and I was like, fuck, we'll just do it a charity thing, and then Chris will pay for it because they do that. So we'll probably be doing something like that in maybe probably like a month or so. I'm not sure when League Badger thing is, but we'll do it not the same time as his thing, just to make it, people don't have to
balance them out.
But Manny specifically said he wanted to do a Gucci Hobo League because the leveling uniques of this league are so powerful. Things like the Ghost Writhe and the Onslaught helmet, etc.
Yeah, it's just such a pain to get
It'd be
them.
interesting to see.
I don't remember when I
Hobo,
leveled.
right?
When I leveled, I didn't get a single unique other than a red beak. That was pretty terrible.
Well, maybe if you farm, reflections and mud flats, you'll get some.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Gucci Hobo
that's
strats.
probably the only strat that you can do is like. Oh,
You'd
God.
be surprised. There are a couple thousand people at an event, and you'll see what meme strats rise to the surface, right?
Well, the thing is, like, otherwise, what else I would do is to get to Act 5 and then start doing heist, but you're not getting to Act
normal
6,
lab.
But
you could run normal lab.
But you're not getting to Act 6 without any like items equipped, right? You do need like
people farming normal lab for like Grand Spectrum jewels and whatnot, and Gucci Hobo could be a thing. There's a lot of things you could do. You'd be surprised. Only farming is a thing? Yeah. It's a fun time, but you'll get the details when I know.
Anyway, we're already a little bit over time. And by a little bit, I mean quite a bit. And I think we've given everyone, I hope we have given everyone plenty and ample opportunity of providing a closing statement and giving a little bit of a shout out to themselves. I'll post the links once again in chat. Guys, if you missed the beginning of the podcast, this will be uploaded in full to youtube.com/CatmasterOP. Of course, you can also find the Faded Connections podcast on all podcasting platforms, with the exception of iHeartRadio, because that was extremely hard to sign up for, and I still haven't gotten the hang of it and don't know exactly what I'm doing wrong with it. But Google, Spotify, Apple, and all that good stuff, that's where you can find us. And if you're super hyped, you can also leave a review there. I'm probably going to do like a giveaway in the future for people who write reviews because, we need reviews desperately. So if you're into writing reviews, write reviews. And then also the next Faded Connections is going to be on Saturday. Fated.fyi/next. That's FATED.fyi/next is the link for the next episode countdown timer that I always update at the end of the episode. Now the next episode coming up on Saturday, 10th of September. We're still waiting for a reply, so I can't announce both guests, but we're gonna have Marion there and 12 p.m. GMT. Once again, fated.fyi/next, going to be updated right after this episode, and then we'll see you for that episode. Until then, have a wonderful time gaming, and may your divines drop in high quantities thanks to the colors that you get into your maps. Bye-bye. And if you're SSF, just get fucked.